Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Start Dragon Ball, Vegeta has a system. Chapter 61. Before the angry Gray could vent his anger well, he was kicked by Vegeta and flew backwards, crashing into the building on the ground, traveling far away, and the smoke billowed. The battle between the two has turned the entire city into ruins. Vegeta clenched his fists, getting more and more excited. This is Saiyan's favorite hand-to-hand combat. Yahahaha, Vegeta roared, venting the excitement in his heart that had no place to rest. The powerful breath caused the whole planet to tremble. Run quickly. Wow, yeah. The crowd, who had already hid 500 meters away, seeing the powerful yellow flames in the center of the hurricane in midair, were so frightened that they retreated again. Shaking in the ruins, Gray gritted his teeth and rushed out quickly. His teeth creaked and he looked at Vegeta in surprise. This strange guy, his strength gradually became stronger as he fought. It's abominable. How could such a person exist? He, King Gray, is a long-lived person who has lived for thousands of years, and he would lose. Not allowed, absolutely not allowed. Gray clenched his fists tighter and tighter. If he loses, the throne and his life will be lost. Gray stretched out his hand to control the building rubble on the ground, suspended them, and launched them all towards Vegeta. Whoosh whoosh. Vegeta dodged slowly, but Gray took advantage of the gap and moved at high speed, following Vegeta to shatter the huge boulder in front of him. Gray also held up a sharp stone tip and pierced Vegeta's abdomen. The distance between the two was very close, and they had reached a close-fitting state. Vegeta grinned, and a Qigong wave condensed in his palm shot towards Gray's body. Injure the enemy 800, and self-injury 1000. Had Gray just forgotten? I have launched Qigong waves before. Gray was so self-satisfied that he had no time to control. A big hole was pierced through his abdomen directly by the Qigong wave, and green blood splashed out. Ah, Star King Gray was injured. Everyone watching below said in unison, but the emotions carried by their voices were not the same. Well, Gray touched his injured abdomen, with green blood overflowing from the corner of his mouth. He gritted his teeth and looked at Vegeta angrily. You are despicable. Hee. I just accept your compliment. Vegeta didn't care at all. For him, Gray is now his enemy. Then when you fight, you will die or I will die, but Vegeta will live forever because of Dragon Ball. Vegeta pushed Gray away, and Gray's body dangled backwards, floating in midair with difficulty. Hee. Saiyans need such a life and death battle. Vegeta smiled, and he didn't finish his sentence. Good time. There was a sudden sound, and a boy with pink hair and wearing a vest suddenly rushed up from the ground below. With a sword in his hand, he jumped directly to Gray's back, and swiped down from the head. Fire! Then a ball of flame appeared in the boy's palm, and it hit Gray's body, burning him to ashes. Vegeta couldn't react at all. What's going on? This is jumping the queue. To put it bluntly, this guy is hundreds of times meaner than himself. Grab the enemy. Dare to snatch him. Vegeta to fight the enemies. Unforgivable. Oh, that's great, you finally killed King Gray. A green-haired girl below cheered with her hands raised high. System. People in this place don't talk about martial arts. Vegeta frowned tightly and looked at the boy opposite. Mr. System always kept his usual silence when he should speak out. The palm of the boy was still burning with flames, and Vegeta could see clearly that it was not arrogance at all. The system task, the host defeated Star Gray Star King, has been completed. The task completion reward Super Saiyan Bloodline 2 has been activated to 40%. This. Vegeta's forehead was bulging with veins. This frankly feels like a joke. Okay. What he wants is a real fight. Such an ending, no matter how you look at it, is a joke. Why does he trust the system? You are the savior of our planet. Thank you for holding back Star King and giving me a chance to kill him. He has enslaved us for hundreds of years. The young Ahuo bowed down to thank Vegeta. Savior, do you need some medical treatment? Our princess is right below. We can give you the best treatment. System, tell me what's going on. Vegeta gritted his teeth and asked in his heart. Without a systematic answer, Vegeta landed on the ground first, and looked at the girl who just raised her hands. What kind of princess are you? Is it beautiful, white and long-legged? But he, Vegeta, is not superficial. Thank you, dear savior, the people of the whole planet will thank you for coming. The girl also saluted Vegeta, talking in a crooked manner. It is you who have freed the people of the whole planet from now on, and we will never be enslaved again. Shut up, woman, isn't that dead guy your father? Vegeta felt a little surprised by his three views. No, he is the villain who killed my father and took away the star position. The girl shook her head quickly. Vegeta's eyes widened. Then why are you still acting like a princess? Because I have my warrior, that is Ahuo. So no one can take away my princess position. The girl tilted her head and looked at Vegeta in surprise, as if she wondered that he didn't even know such common sense. Ahem. Vegeta coughed up blood speechlessly, and he reached out to touch his bleeding abdomen. He thought it was a joke to listen to the system to do this task. Satire, nausea, shame, savior, go to our palace for treatment. Ahuo fell from midair and stood behind the girl. Vegeta nodded helplessly. There was no medical cabin on his spaceship, which was also the secondary reason why he wanted to go back to Frieza's planet 46 to find Leonardo. He is not like Kakarot, who has fairy beans as jelly beans, just for fun. Do you have a medical cabin? Vegeta didn't ask for help, and just followed behind the two of them, clutching his wound. Medical cabin. The girl turned her head in confusion, then looked at Ahuo again. Do you know what that is? We don't have that kind of thing, but we have a doctor. Ahuo quickly put Vegeta on the bed and called a doctor. Disinfect, apply medicine, suture the wound, wrap the bandage. Vegeta thinks he should go back to the spaceship. Although there is no medical cabin, at least there are some medical equipment. Such a serious injury can be recovered for a week at most. On this barren and scientifically backward planet, he would have to lie here for at least half a month before he could recuperate. Princess. Ahuo. Vegeta turned his head and was about to say that he was leaving. When he saw the two guys looking at each other affectionately, Vegeta was speechless for a while. Host, look, how beautiful their love is. Hearing the sound of the system, Vegeta was even more angry. The system, is this trying to torment him or to torment him? I'm leaving. Vegeta covered the oozing gauze, ignoring the only two people in his eyes, and got up from the bed on his own. But you are still seriously injured. Ahuo, who was next to him, struggled to shift his gaze to Vegeta, who got up, and asked to stay. No problem. Vegeta flew out of the floor-to-ceiling window without looking back, and flew towards the place where his spaceship was. He can't stand such a guy. Is there only love and love in their world? The system issued a task. The host went to the Earth to contact Bulma and develop into love, and the task was completed to reward Super Saiyan Bloodline to activation to 60. Update information. The host Vegeta, the normal combat power is 480 million, the strongest combat power is 2,000,004, Super Saiyan 2 has been activated by 40%. Go away. Vegeta heard the sound of the system on the way back to the spaceship, and he shouted without thinking. This rubbish system actually wants to hinder his path to becoming stronger. The Earth want to force a woman for him. He is the man who wants to become the strongest, and he wants to go back to Frieza's planet 46. If he eats soft food, if he has a system, get out. He really did it on his own. Back on the spaceship, Vegeta simply treated the wound and then started the spaceship non-stop, away from this planet. What kind of rubbish is really disgusting? After recovering from the injury in this way, Vegeta quickly returned to the gravity chamber, and he was used to 150 times the normal state. Individuals care about gravity. I don't know much about this, please let me go. Now that he can become Super 1, he plans to rise to 200 times the gravity in one go, and he will reach Frieza's planet 46 in a few days. After touring the entire planet, it's a pity that the building is empty. Leonardo and the others have already evacuated. It should be because of Frieza's death. No, it must be the news of disappearing on Namek. It is estimated that Frieza's parents are dispatched. Vegeta, who had traveled to the sky, didn't feel any disappointment. He continued to drive the spaceship aimlessly in the universe. Until passing by the Earth, the gravity chamber of his spaceship was damaged due to no one maintaining it all year round. The heavens think that your home is on the Earth, and Bulma will be your true destiny. The system's voice was cold and mechanical. But no matter how Vegeta listened, he felt that the system was laughing at him. Vegeta had to land the spaceship on the Earth, and before he knew it, it had been nearly 10 months since the incident with Frieza. As soon as the spaceship landed on the barren field, the old acquaintances on the Earth noticed Vegeta's breath. Keelan, Piccolo, Sun Wukong, Yamcha, Tianjin Rice, Dumpling and others stood in front of him. What are you here for? Klin, who was more familiar with him, said first, aren't you still thinking about destroying the Earth? I'm not that boring, I just want to find that Earth woman. Vegeta crossed his arms. Earth woman. Sun Wukong was puzzled when he heard that. Keelan clenched his fist vigilantly, and asked tentatively, you mean Bu Bulma? What are you looking for her for? Yamcha's ears moved slightly, and he hurriedly asked. HMPH, you're really nosy. Vegeta snorted coldly, why should he explain to these irrelevant people? If you don't say anything, I won't let you go. Piccolo flashed in front of Vegeta in an instant, blocking Vegeta's way. You guy, aren't you afraid of death? Vegeta frowned, and said a little dissatisfied. Piccolo didn't speak, but he didn't leave either, still standing in front of Vegeta. The meaning of this is already obvious. If Vegeta didn't explain why he came, they wouldn't let them leave. HMPH, just because you guys can stop me. Seeing Piccolo's stubbornness, Vegeta also felt uncomfortable. Do you believe I killed you? Is your spaceship broken? Is no one repairing it? Sun Wukong looked at Vegeta's somewhat damaged spaceship, and suddenly said Vegeta's heart. No one expected such a reason for the sudden silence at the scene. So, in fact, Vegeta came to Earth not to cause trouble, but to ask a woman for help. Vegeta and Piccolo glanced at the spaceship from the corner of their eyes. There were some pits hit by meteorites in some places, and wear and tear could be seen in some places at a glance. Soon, a group of people seemed to be escorting, but in fact they followed Vegeta under surveillance, until Vegeta found Bulma and took her plane to the side of the spaceship. Those Earth warriors confirmed their eyes before leaving Shishiren. In the end, Yamcha pulled Bulma aside and muttered, pointing at Vegeta. You have to be careful. This guy must be upset and kind to you. Listening to Yamcha's words, Bulma turned his attention to Vegeta. This man. Vegeta folded his hands on his chest and sneered disdainfully. Did he think he couldn't hear him when he spoke so loudly? It's ridiculous. Is Vegeta such a superficial person? Knowing that Vegeta was only here to repair the spaceship, and that there was no harm to his life at all, Bulma became more courageous, and did not start to be as afraid of Vegeta as he was on Namek. After some inspections, Bulma said to Vegeta, it takes 5 days for repairs, and I have to go back to my house for repairs. I don't have enough equipment. Vegeta sat on a raised rock, gnawing on tasteless food, without answering. Hey, you have no place to go on Earth, why don't you come to my house? Bulma Cheng shouted at Vegeta with his hands on his hips. Vegeta frowned slightly. This woman actually called him, hi. Aside from his noble background as a prince, even if he was Frieza's subordinate, at least he had a few soldiers under his command. Whether it's from Vegeta's memory or his previous life, everyone has always respected him. But the woman in front of her, who has no combat power at all, actually called him, hi, she was so bold. Vegeta will not spoil Bulma just because she is a woman, even if she is his future object. You don't want to know about Monkey King. I can tell you a lot about him. We have known each other since we were very young. After listening to Bulma's words, Vegeta was still unmoved. Does he still need a woman like Bulma to explain to him? He knows everyone's moves in the Dragon Ball world better than any character in Dragon Ball, and it's still from God's perspective. But in fact, he ate, drank, lived, and traveled on the spaceship, and now the spaceship was going to be taken to Bulma's house, so he had to follow. Then let's live at Bulma's house temporarily, He just acted helplessly, there was nothing else to say. But in just 5 days, it will pass quickly. Vegeta knew that Bulma was a scientist, her father Brive was also a scientist, and their family was the richest man in the world. Her mother was a housewife who smiled at everyone. I remember that when Mrs. Brive saw him for the first time, she greeted him very enthusiastically, oh, are you Bulma's new boyfriend? HMPH, what a ghost boyfriend. When living in Bulma's house, Vegeta needed to eat. Saiyans eat a lot, if they eat with their stomachs open. No matter how thick-skinned Vegeta is, he himself sometimes feels embarrassed, but instead of being surprised, he can cook as much food as he needs. This level of enthusiasm, and the service of getting what you want, Vegeta somehow thought of 4 words. Soft rice hard to eat. Just for this, Vegeta feels that this family is still worthy of his human touch, at least he will not be cold-blooded to this family. After a short 2-day break, Vegeta, who was so bored, couldn't help but put forward his opinions to Bulma. He found Bulma, who was repairing the spaceship with Brive. Woman, is my gravity room repaired? Gravity room. This is very advanced, and it's very troublesome to repair. Bulma took the time to answer without looking up, wearing gloves and holding tools. If you don't make do with the 500 times Earth's gravity chamber, you'll have it tomorrow. Brive thought for a while, looking up at the impatient Vegeta, with a cigarette in his mouth. Vegeta soon left without looking back. Let's make do with going to the deserted wilderness or the seaside today. The road to becoming stronger is unstoppable. Early the next morning, Brive, who stayed up all night, fulfilled Vegeta's request. But it is a pity that it is really just a training room with 500 times the gravity, which is still calculated according to the gravity of the Earth. Vegeta was really dissatisfied when he first arrived in the training room, but at least it was better than nothing, and it was just enough. He waited for his spaceship to be done. Vegeta, who had repaired the spaceship on the 5th day, smiled slightly. Well, he can finally set off and continue to travel around the universe. Awesome. After thinking about it, Vegeta once again made his own small request to Brive. Can you increase the setting strength of the gravity chamber to 1000 times? From the highest limit of 500 times to 1000 times, regardless of whether Vegeta will be able to bear it, with the current technology of the Earth, this is simply an unreasonable request. This requirement is very difficult. The current material of your spaceship can't withstand such a high pressure density. Otherwise, it will explode. Brive shook his head with a cigarette in his mouth. And on Earth, I don't know if there is such a material. Vegeta finally got involved with a scientific researcher. How could he let such an opportunity go? He yelled at Brive angrily, if you don't raise it to 1000 times, I'll burn your house to the ground. Ah, Brive opened his mouth slightly, and the smoke fell to the ground. Vegeta, you are making things difficult for others. Bulma, who was standing next to her, said dissatisfiedly. This guy lives in her house for free, serving her like a grandpa, yet he still has so many unreasonable demands. It's just an unfamiliar white-eyed wolf. Fortunately, she likes him a little bit. Are you courting death? Vegeta glanced sideways at Bulma, who was shouting at him with his hands on his hips. This woman dared to talk back to herself. Sensing Vegeta's impatience, Brive quickly resolved it. If it's 1000 times, you can't blame us for any accident. Vegeta didn't agree or object, and left after humming. Because of the change in the gravity chamber, Vegeta was not allowed to stay on the 6th day on Earth, and he had no contact with Bulma at all. He was busy getting stronger, and Bulma was busy repairing the spaceship. When trying out the gravity chamber the next day, an accident happened. Just adjust the gravity, and the gravity machinery will be directly damaged and a big explosion will occur. Rao is so powerful that Vegeta was seriously injured in order to protect the two scientific researchers. The huge explosion directly destroyed 1/3 of the land of Bulma's house. What happened next, Vegeta doesn't know, because he has lost consciousness. When Vegeta woke up again, he was lying on the bed wrapped up like a mummy, unable to move, and his whole body was in heart-piercing pain. You're awake. Hearing Bulma's hoarse voice and the blood-red eyes, Vegeta was a little dazed. HMPH, isn't this woman afraid that she will kill her because she broke her spaceship? So keep watching yourself. Never mind her, impatient woman. This is troublesome, lying like this, when can I stand up? Vegeta was furious in his heart, but he couldn't burst out because he couldn't move. Just like this, Vegeta lay in bed for nearly half a month, and he missed the medical cabin in Frieza's army all the time. Vegeta finally couldn't stand such a wasteful life. He put down his dignity slightly. I said, woman, can you go and ask me for a fairy bean? The day after you were injured, I asked about it, but it hasn't grown out yet. Bulma never thought that Vegeta, who was so arrogant, would put aside his dignity and ask himself for things on the Earth. Vegeta pursed his lips. Then can my spaceship be repaired? Seeing that Bulma was about to feed himself again, Vegeta took the bowl and chopsticks with a face. Forget it, boil it over. For the first week, Bulma took care of Vegeta, who was immobile. Bulma was very noisy. This was Vegeta's first impression of this woman. She was talking about Kakarot while feeding him. It can be repaired, but it is definitely not as good as your previous spaceship. You need to come back for repairs about every 6 months. Bulma didn't stop her, and went to the side to peel the hand fruit. The hand holding the apple was clean but somewhat rough, which was obviously far from the skin on Bulma's face. Although she has no combat power, she has brain power and is barely a qualified fighter. Vegeta pawed at the rice absently, but kept his eyes on Bulma's hand. Suddenly Vegeta's hand paused, and he felt that a powerful combat power was rapidly approaching the earth. Is it that kid Kakarot? Vegeta threw down the bowl and chopsticks, and shattered the bandages on his body with a rage. No, more than one breath. It's Frieza. Vegeta didn't say a word. The violent air shattered the bandages on his body, put on his clothes and slammed the door directly out. Hey, your injury is still not healed. Bulma quickly stood up and looked at the disappearing Vegeta, yelling. In the spaceship that appeared above the Earth's atmosphere, Frieza, who was covered in machinery, looked at the Earth outside the transparent cover. This is the Earth. Vegeta, this fool, dare to betray me and join a group of Earthlings. Behind him is King Kurd, Frieza's father. With his head on his hands, he said confidently, such a small planet can be destroyed with one punch. That's too cheap for them. I want to show Vegeta how powerful my skills will be after improving. Frieza wagged his tail. And the other fighters on Earth also quickly flew towards the place where the Frieza spacecraft was about to land. It will probably land near here. Vegeta was the first to arrive at the scene, and he folded his arms in anticipation. What's really missing? Someone rushed to deliver it. Vegeta was looking forward to Frieza's arrival, because he just didn't have a spaceship to use. One after another, the second one to arrive was Yamcha. And Bulma's plane was also in the air. She opened the window and waved to the people on the ground, Vegeta Yamcha. It's that idiot Bulma. Yamcha wondered, could it be that Vegeta coerced Bulma to come? Watching the plane land, Yamcha hurriedly asked, why are you here? I want to see what Frieza looks like. Bulma put his hands on his hips, and said very calmly, I didn't see it when I was on Namek. You just want to see him. Do you know how dangerous it is? Yamcha looked at Bulma in shock. She hasn't seen her for more than a month. When did she become so courageous? Isn't there still Vegeta here? What are you afraid of? Bulma waved his hand indifferently, I just want to meet this villain. Yamcha was speechless, he didn't even know what to say. The idiot woman Vegeta ignored the conversation between the two, and glanced at the Tianjin rice and dumplings that fell to the ground from the corner of her eye. Tianjin Fan still looked at Vegeta angrily, his eyes full of hostility, and it took him a long time to shift his gaze to Yamcha and asked. Did you feel it too? It feels like you're not alone, as if there is a stronger breath. It's Frieza. Yamcha swallowed, and told Tianjin Fan what he knew. Why, isn't Frieza dead? Hearing this news, Dumpling's face turned pale instantly. Vegeta didn't care at all. He put his hands in the pockets of his slacks, and waited for Frieza's spaceship to land. Why hasn't Dad come back? Sun Wuhan, who was flying behind Keelan, clenched his fists. This evil aura is so disturbing. It's Frieza. Wasn't he killed by Vegeta? Krillin also looked disheveled, with a hint of fear in his words. A Vegeta like a ticking time bomb, now even Frieza is coming to Earth. The Earth is in danger. What about Wukong? Why hasn't he come back yet? Gohan, everyone has arrived. Keelan quickly regained his composure and turned to look at Gohan behind him. Uncle Piccolo is here too. It seems that they all feel that anger. Sun Wuhan, who was immersed in his own thoughts, looked down at the people standing below and greeted him. Hello everyone. Hi. Bulma waved to Keelan and Son Gohan indifferently. She looked like she was here for sightseeing. At this moment, Frieza's spaceship had appeared above the sky, and everyone looked nervously. Only Piccolo set his sights on Vegeta. Not seen for more than a month, Vegeta's combat power seems to be much stronger again. Didn't you kill him completely? Piccolo frowned and finally couldn't help turning his head to look at Vegeta and asked. HMPH, weren't you there at that time? Vegeta asked dissatisfied. Sure enough, Frieza didn't die. Son Gohan was in cold sweat, and he still had lingering fears from the battle a year ago. Krillin also gritted his teeth. There is another person with Frieza. We are all approaching on foot, don't fly. Piccolo also reminded everyone aloud, and he was not sure whether Vegeta would help them this time. He is not Monkey King, he has the responsibility to protect the Earth. It is a miracle that Vegeta did not kill the Earth. Tianjin Fan was shocked, such a powerful Piccolo was so cautious. And the more powerful aura emanating from the spaceship is even better than Frieza. Is Frieza so powerful? Yamcha also looked uneasy. He's stronger now. Son Gohan clenched his fists and said through clenched teeth. Then can we fight? Everyone didn't put their hopes on Vegeta. After all, they were not all the way. Where is Monkey King? Haven't you come back yet? Piccolo frowned. Now he can only pray that Monkey King will arrive in time. What did Vegeta tell Sun Wukong to go to planet Yadrat? Could it be that he has some ulterior conspiracy? Forgive him for having to think this way. After all, Vegeta is not a good person at all. His strength is too strong. We were useless in the past, not to mention Frieza and the others are still two people. Yamcha stretched out his hand, and said to Piccolo that he would destroy his prestige. We can't stop it at all. Then, are we waiting here to die? Everyone is well aware of the seriousness of the situation. Piccolo said and set his eyes on Vegeta. It is impossible for Vegeta not to feel this powerful gaze. He turned his head and looked at Piccolo with a playful expression. Do you want to ask me for help? Kneel down and beg me. You, Piccolo clenched his fists. He couldn't let go of his dignity, and couldn't bear to watch the Earth be destroyed like this. Oh, it seems that the end of the Earth is coming. Vegeta still put his hands in his pockets, watching all the people in front of him staring at him. Presumably, they also knew that even if Piccolo really knelt down and begged him, he would not make a move. Yes, his horse son will come to save them, but he won't say it. Why, I just like to see the frightened look of these trash. It was so much fun. Vegeta ignored them, flew directly to the top of the mountain, and looked down at the landing spaceship. The hatch of Frieza's spaceship was opened, and a group of people walked out of the hatch. Earth. Frieza looked at the nearby scenery. The environment is very good. Is Vegeta on this planet too? King Kurd asked with his arms crossed. Frieza wagged his tail. Yes, I checked the positioning of Legion's spaceship. This guy arrived on Earth more than a month ago. HMPH, betraying me and continuing to enjoy the things of our Legion is really a Saiyan style. King Kurd sneered. Vegeta likes to hang out with Earthlings so much, it seems that he has a very good relationship with Earthlings. In this case, kill all the people on Earth and let him taste the pain. Fate, Vegeta, ha ha ha. Piccolo also quietly appeared not far from Vegeta, and he still couldn't help the restlessness in his heart and ran over. When he just heard this, he couldn't help looking at Vegeta. It seems that you still have to do it. It seems that Frieza and the others are here to find you. Vegeta was noncommittal. It's easy to kill the people on Earth, but we still have to find a way to completely eliminate the Super Saiyans. The Kurdish king below had a gloomy face, and vicious words came out of his mouth. Our Frozen clan is the most powerful in the universe, we must kill him. And the rest of the Saiyans must die too. Frieza nodded in agreement. Feeling the strength of Frieza, Yamcha, who didn't dare to go over, hunched his back and murmured in despair, just resurrected but has to die. Frieza turned his head to look at the dozens of Frieza soldiers following him, and ordered, now, go and kill all the people on Earth. Cha! A young man appeared in front of Frieza, and Frieza looked at him disdainfully. What are you doing, Earthlings? Trunks of the future time and space. I want to destroy you. Trunks said with a serious face, without emotion. Both King Kurd and Frieza were stupefied. What a brat. You want to destroy us. What a bold tone. Frieza recovered, and looked at Trunks in front of him mockingly. I know who you are. Trunks put on a blank face, extremely stable. You are Frieza. Frieza was very surprised. The guy in front of him actually knew him. He didn't expect that he was so famous and even such a remote small planet knew his name. It's an honor. There are people on the planets in the Milky Way who know my name. Frieza said proudly, his tone full of complacency. However, you don't know that I am the strongest in the universe, right? He turned his head and gave an order to one of Frieza's soldier H behind him, go and kill him. Little soldier H responded immediately, okay. Soon the little soldier H came out, took a few steps forward holding the light gun, and aimed at Trunks. He looked at the value displayed on the detector and taunted, the combat power is only 5, what a waste. Boom, the light gun fired a ray of light, but it reached Trunks and was slapped away by him. Snapped. Quote exclamation mark quote. Xiaobing H's eyes widened, his face was full of surprise. Isn't he a waste? How could it be possible? And Trunks had already moved at this moment. After knocking up the little soldiers, the rest of the little soldiers rushed towards Trunks collectively. Ah! Trunks didn't show any panic. He reached out and took out the one-handed sword behind him. Click! Trunks passed through the crowd of small soldiers at an astonishingly fast speed, and the small soldiers fell to the ground and died one after another before they could react. Bang bang! Keelan and the others who were standing across a mountain were all shocked. Vegeta put his hands on his chest and smiled slightly. That guy appeared. Future Trunks. His cheap son. He got up and walked in the direction of the future Trunks. What's the matter, you guys? Watching Vegeta fly away while the rest of the people froze in place, Bulma looked at everyone suspiciously. There was a strong chi just now. A lot of chi disappeared in a blink of an eye. Keelan's shiny forehead was covered with sweat. What happened? Yamcha also asked in confusion. There seems to be something wrong on the other side of the mountain. Keelan frowned tightly. When Vegeta landed on the top, he saw the future Trunks talking harshly to Frieza and the others. I'll kill you in the blink of an eye. Do you understand? Trunks said indifferently. What? Frieza paused, then laughed loudly. Ha ha ha, you are so funny. You'd better attack with all your strength. I won't give you a chance to survive like Monkey King. Trunks said indifferently. Monkey King. Kurdish King cast his eyes on Frieza in surprise, and asked with puzzlement, didn't you say you were defeated by Vegeta? Yeah, this kid is really weird. Frieza shrugged. He said that he didn't know where the rumors came from that he was defeated by Monkey King. What? Trunks, who had always been mature and stable, finally began to change his expression at this moment. Did Vegeta defeat you? What happened? Could it be because of his coming that the known past has changed? HMPH, no matter what Sun Wukong or Vegeta, can't change your fate of facing death later. Frieza didn't care about this question at all. Anyway, this guy just killed his subordinates, so he must pay the price. Then you made a wrong calculation. Trunks' expression became serious again. As for who defeated Frieza on Namek, I'll ask Mr. Monkey King himself later. No, I've already told you that you were wrong. Trunks said patiently, because there is not only one Super Saiyan. And I, too. What? Hearing this, Frieza and the Kurdish King looked shocked. Ha ah ah! Trunks yelled loudly, clenched his fists and began to rage, and then a pale yellow flame ignited on him. Facing this powerful combat power, Frieza opened his mouth wide, unable to hide his stunned expression. Ah! He's also a Super Saiyan. Seeing the transformed Trunks, King Kurd frowned. Let's die. Trunks didn't intend to continue talking nonsense. Huh, so strong. People who were still at the foot of the other side of the mountain spoke out one after another. With Vegeta's aura, it seems that he is willing to take action to protect the Earth. Son Gohan clenched his fists and shouted in surprise. Really? Krillin was a little uncertain. Would Vegeta really be so kind? Frieza was already frightened by the Super Saiyan. He immediately stretched out his hand and fired a Qigong wave at Trunks without saying a word. I think the person who is going to die should be you. A huge explosion sounded, and the smoke soared into the sky. The battle has begun. Tianjin Fan raised his head and suddenly reminded him. Everyone heard the explosion and looked up at the sky. It was thick smoke. Piccolo, who boldly followed behind Vegeta, frowned tightly when he saw Trunks. Where did this boy come from? Another Super Saiyan. Why isn't Vegeta surprised at all? Isn't the Saiyan only left with him and Monkey King and his son? The battle was just a one-sided massacre. Trunks swung a single-handed sword and cut Frieza into countless pieces and dropped them. With one Qigong wave, Frieza was shot into fly ash, and the fly ash fell downward. Wow! Several people at the foot of the mountain stared wide-eyed. Even Piccolo was surprised. Really? It's Frieza, Super Saiyan. It crushed Frieza in an instant. A group of people stared dumbfounded, while Bulma put his hand between his brows and looked at it, complaining dissatisfiedly, your eyesight is really good. Why can't I see? I didn't expect Vegeta to be so powerful. He could save the Earth in an instant. Bulma couldn't help thinking. Perhaps after a short time together recently, Vegeta may have fallen in love with herself, and could not extricate herself to protect the Earth she is on. Well, it must be so. He's not Vegeta, but he seems to be a Super Saiyan. Yamcha's unintentional correction broke Bulma's beautiful fantasy. Seeing this, several people couldn't help but flew towards the other side of the mountain. Seeing everyone flying away, Bulma grabbed Yamcha's arm. I'm going too. Despair. After killing Frieza with one blow, Trunks and King Kurd fell to the ground one after another. King Kurd had a gloomy expression on his face. He stared at Trunks and suddenly smiled. There were 2 strikes, really beyond my expectations. Frieza was wiped out in an instant. Replace Frieza as my son. The Kurdish king stretched out his hand to solicit. You are the strongest in the universe, only you are qualified to be our clansman, and you can also own all the planets. Not interested. Trunks refused indifferently. I really don't know how to flatter you. King Kurd planned to ask for Trunks' one-handed sword, but Trunks threw it to him without caring. Snapped. HMPH, it's really extremely sharp. King Kurd said nonsense, and swung his sword at Trunks. Trunks was extremely indifferent, and directly received the sword with his bare hands, and his strength was so great that he crushed the Kurdish king, making it impossible for him to draw back a single sword. Ah woo woo. Looking at the Kurdish king who was trembling all over and couldn't draw back a sword, Trunks asked indifferently, do you think so? Snapped. Trunks put his hand on the Kurdish king's abdomen, and the Kurdish king shouted eagerly, wait a minute. Trunks didn't listen to him, and directly shot the Kurdish king through the abdomen with an air bullet. The Kurdish king was shot backwards and hit the mountain, slipped and fell to the ground. There was a big hole in his abdomen, and blood was flowing wildly. Swish. Trunks once again hit the Kurdish king with an air bomb. With the sound of the explosion, the Kurdish king's bones were gone. Just when he was about to blow up the spaceship with a gas bomb, Vegeta moved to his face at high speed in an instant. He grabbed Trunks' hand. The spaceship is mine. A group of people flying in midair stared dumbfounded, their expressions completely frozen. Sizzle. The smog was still filling up below, and it was raining gravel. Vegeta and his future son looked at each other, and they both looked away awkwardly. Swish. Vegeta also let go of his hand, and Trunks put the sword back on his back, and secretly glanced at Vegeta. Mr. B. Vegeta, did you kill Frieza? HMPH. Vegeta felt that this cheap son was mocking him, but since this guy was his own son, Vegeta couldn't make a face. On Namek, I failed to kill him completely. Then have you also become a Super Saiyan? Trunks pursed his lips and asked his own doubts. Yeah, Vegeta clasped his arms across his chest and responded lightly. Trunks looked serious, and he sighed inwardly, indeed history has changed. Then Mr. Goku has become a Super Saiyan. Trunks carefully peeked at Vegeta's expression, not seeing Vegeta's anger, and quietly breathed a sigh of relief. I don't know, Vegeta answered concisely. Trunks, who didn't get an answer, was not disappointed either. He shouted at the crowd in midair, I'm going to meet Monkey King. Are you together? Everyone was surprised at first, and after a brief discussion, they followed Trunks to the designated place to wait for Monkey King to come. Bulma paid close attention to the young man frequently, and she always felt that the young man looked strangely familiar, giving him a sense of familiarity. 3 hours later, Monkey King will arrive. While waiting, Bulma kept staring at Trunks while sipping her drink. She couldn't help asking, have we met before? It's really too familiar feeling, but Bulma can't say it all at once. Ah, nope. Trunks' eyes dodged a little, and he even felt a little shy. This is young mother, Bulma. Faced with various questions from everyone, Trunks refused to answer, but only admitted that he was also a Super Saiyan. Vegeta wondered if he had to cooperate with the performance at this time, shouting that there are no Saiyans in this world except him and Kakarot plus his son. Sorry, he can't shout, except for the cheap son in front of him. There is also Broly, his brother who didn't die, who will be his and Kakarot's sons in the future, and even Universe 6. Just when Vegeta's thoughts were flying, Bulma interrupted Vegeta's thoughts while hugging his chest. Vegeta, are there other Saiyans besides you? You, a prince, don't know. HMPH. Vegeta snorted coldly. He crossed his arms and turned his eyes to other places. This idiot woman feels really awkward. Bulma, who was always treated like this, was not annoyed, turned to look at Trunks and noticed the badge on his arm. Huh, isn't this the logo of the capsule company? Could it be that you are an employee of the company? No, I'm not. Trunks quickly covered the badge on his arm. Vegeta raised his eyebrows slightly, and complained in his heart, "Of course he is not, he is the next president of your company in the future. Why is it so mysterious? Do you have to keep your name and age secret?" Bulma became even more curious, and the scientist's psychology of seeking knowledge was ready to move. "I'm 17 years old, but I can't tell you my name." Trunks didn't realize that this young mother was not as stable as he was in contact with. "You can't even tell your name." Tianjin Fan thought it was weird. Yamcha put his hands on his hips, and his face was not very good looking. "Yes. There is no need to hide it. Hey, don't make troubles for others, after all, he saved the earth." Bulma looked at the expressions on everyone's faces, and quickly reached out to smooth things over. A group of people each found a corner, and waited for the 3 hours to pass, waiting for the return of Monkey King. Sun Wuhan was talking to Piccolo, and Krillin suddenly looked at Bulma and asked, "That guy didn't cause any trouble at your house, did he?" "Yes, my house was almost blown up. But fortunately, no one was killed. It was he who seriously injured himself and lay down for more than half a month." Bulma looked at Vegeta. "Hey, why do you think this guy is getting more and more handsome?" Sensing the gaze, Vegeta glanced at Bulma disdainfully. "Can't this idiot woman speak in a lower voice? Is he a Saiyan prince who doesn't want to lose face? Hateful. Do you think that if you stay in her house for a while, you become your own?" "Oh," Krillin dragged out the ending, "it seems that Vegeta is getting better slowly. HMPH, don't be fooled by his appearance." Yamcha stood beside him with veins on his forehead, and he always had an ominous premonition. Keelan looked at Lemon Yamcha speechlessly. "Why does the top of this guy's head look a little green?" Bulma suddenly covered his mouth with his hand and whispered to Klin, "Don't you think the two of them are very similar?" "Ah, who is it?" Some distracted Keelan responded instinctively. "Vegeta and that kid. Ha, I always thought they looked alike." Bulma looked at Vegeta and then at Trunks. Keelan looked at it, and was told by Bulma, "It's a bit similar, but the personality is completely different. This child looks stable, sensible, and polite." Trunks's peripheral vision also glanced at Vegeta from time to time. "If you want to see it, just put your eyes on me." Vegeta was really dissatisfied with his sneaky peeping. Can it be different? This guy is his future son. If he doesn't look like it, can he get it? But the character of this cheap son, no way. "I'm not sorry." Trunks blushed and quickly bowed his head to apologize. "Incompetent guy." Vegeta frowned. It seems that his son must be strictly educated when he is born in the future. Phew, what was he thinking? Everyone looked at Trunks mutteringly, and 3 hours passed quickly. Trunks looked at his watch, stood up and looked up at the sky. He should be here. The next moment, everyone shouted, "It is true. I feel a breath. Someone is really coming. The time and place are the same as that boy said." Bulma put his hand between his brows and looked towards the sky, and a black spot appeared faintly. "It's Dad, it's his anger." Son Gohan shouted excitedly. He hadn't seen his dad for a long, long time. "The black spot in the sky is getting bigger and bigger. It is around one-person spaceship, like a meteor passing by quickly, hitting the ground in the distance. He's over there." Everyone quickly flew towards the place where the spaceship landed. In the huge deep pit, the hatch of the spacecraft opened. Quack. Ha! Sun Wukong breathed out and came down from the inside, and when he saw everyone, he was surprised. "Hey, why are you all here?" He didn't tell them that he would come back at this time. "Father!" Sun Gohan yelled excitedly, tears welling up in his eyes. "How do you know I'm coming back?" Sun Wukong flew up and stood in front of everyone, his face full of doubts. Vegeta stared at Monkey King seriously, thinking to himself, "Kakarot, has he learned to teleport? This is the kid's important trump card trick. This kid told us." Bulma pointed at Trunks and looked at Sun Wukong. "You know him, Dad." Sun Wuhan has been smiling big since he met Sun Wukong. This is not a dream, his dad is back. Sun Wukong put his eyes on Trunks, and asked in puzzlement, "Who is he?" Everyone looked at Monkey King blankly. "Are you sure you don't know him?" Bulma asked again. "Wukong is just too nervous sometimes." "I don't know." Sun Wukong took a positive tone this time. "But he knew you would land here at this time." Bulma was also confused. The guilty Trunks bowed his head. He had to think about how to explain. It's really strange that someone still knows my whereabouts. Sun Wukong wondered. He came back to Earth on a temporary basis, but he quickly put this problem aside. By the way, who defeated Frieza and the others? I feel a strong chi, is it Piccolo or Vegeta? Frieza and others were wiped out by this kid in an instant. Piccolo folded his arms and told the truth. He is a Saiyan, and like Vegeta, he can become a Super Saiyan. Super Saiyan. Sun Wukong was a little stunned by the huge amount of information, and then he looked at Trunks in admiration. You are so young, but you have such strength. It's amazing. Besides us, there are Saiyans. It's good to have one more Saiyan, Sun Wukong said again, throwing the question behind him, and didn't intend to think deeply at all. Then Monkey King began to look at Piccolo belatedly. Did Frieza not die when he was on Namek? Vegeta stood by and watched speechlessly, this mindless Kakarot. Why did Kakarot not react until now? Frieza is not dead yet. Never mind. Kakarot doesn't care if he doesn't care. On Namek, Frieza was defeated by himself, and now on Earth, Frieza and his son were defeated by his cheap son. It's wonderful to think about it. You still think so openly. Bulma put his hands on his hips and looked at the undisturbed Monkey King and sighed. Sun Wukong glanced away and saw Vegeta with his arms crossed. Oh, why are you here on Earth, Vegeta? Do you want to discuss it later? HMPH, can you become a Super Saiyan now? If not, you are no match for me. Vegeta snorted disdainfully. Of course, this year I can not only become a Super Saiyan, I also learn. Monkey King still wanted to chat with Vegeta, but was suddenly interrupted. Trunks put his eyes on Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong, I have something to tell you. Why do you want to avoid us? Yamcha immediately became upset. Is it really good to treat them as adults? Sorry, wait a minute. Sun Wukong thought for a while, then reached out his hand to greet everyone and followed Trunks to the distance. Just here, Trunks stopped when he looked at someone who was almost invisible in the distance. Thank you so much for defeating Frieza and saving the Earth. Sun Wukong thanked with a smile. But if you know that Vegeta is also on Earth, you don't have to worry too much. Monkey King said with a smile. After all, it was Vegeta who defeated Frieza on Namek. Really? Surprise flashed across Trunks' face. Could it be that his travel to the past really changed the past? But it shouldn't be. Mingming's mother told him that it was Sun Wukong who first became a Super Saiyan and defeated Frieza. But thanks to Vegeta, I learned a new move on planet Yadrat. Sun Wukong explained in a good mood. He didn't mean to resent Vegeta at all, and there was a trace of gratitude in his words. New moves. Trunks looked puzzled. Yes, it's called teleportation. Sun Wukong looked at Trunks and continued to explain. I was taught by the people from the Yadrat star. Although they don't have great power, they have a lot of tricks. Trunks' face was heavy, and his heart was crazily surging with emotions. Well, I actually changed history unintentionally. I only planned to see you alone, but I saw everyone. History? What history? Now it was Monkey King's turn to lose his head. The group of people standing in the distance couldn't hear the sound at all. Vegeta looked at Piccolo, his ears were shaking slightly, it seemed that this guy could hear it. Soon the two on the opposite side didn't say a few words, and Chi-Chi turned into a Super Saiyan and started to fight. Vegeta frowned. Kakarot was a little stronger than himself after he became a Super Saiyan. It seems that if he doesn't work hard, he will soon be overtaken by this kid. Sun Wukong and Trunks retracted their hands after testing each other a few times, and the two continued to talk. I came here from the future world 20 years later in a time machine. My name is Trunks, and I have Saiyan blood on my body. I am Vegeta's son. Vegeta's son. Sun Wukong's eyes widened, obviously frightened. He turned his head to look at Vegeta, feeling emotional. As soon as you say it, I really think you two look alike. I was born in 2.5 years. I'm not here to tell you this. It's another big thing. Trunks felt that Sun Wukong's reaction was a bit exaggerated. What's the matter? Seeing Trunks getting serious, Monkey King also suppressed his inner sigh and asked. It's really unexpected that someone like Vegeta will have a son. 3 years later, at 3 o'clock in the morning on May 5th, two super scary people will appear on a small island just kilometers southwest of Nandu. They are infinitely powerful, unimaginably strong. Could it be a cosmic man? Sun Wukong also frowned and asked seriously. No, They are artificial humans made by people on Earth, and they were made by Dr. Gero, alias Dr. Gero, a scientist of the former Red Silk Army. Monkey King was surprised. It's the Red Silk Army again. Although the Red Silk Army has been wiped out by you long ago, the surviving Dr. Gero is still conducting research. Clin in the distance looked at the serious expressions of Sun Wukong and Trunks. They seemed to be talking about something very serious. So far away, can you see their expressions? Sitting on the rock, Bulma asked curiously, your eyes are really amazing. I don't know what they are talking about. Sun Wuhan was also very curious and wanted to go over and listen. You can kill Frieza in an instant and still think they're horrible, so. Sun Wukong also thought about his strength. Is the man-made man really so powerful? Yes, even if it's one-on-one, I can only escape. Trunks lowered his head with difficulty. There are two of them, what about your companion? Sun Wukong wondered, what about them in the future world? It's gone. After 20 years, I was the only surviving warrior. In the battle 3 years later, my father, Keelan, Yamcha, Tianjin Rice, Dumpling and Piccolo were all dead. And Son Gohan, who escaped by chance, taught me martial arts, also 4 years ago. With Piccolo's death, Dragon Ball no longer exists, and no one can be resurrected. The artificial humans that no one can stop are even more crazy. They kill innocent people indiscriminately, and the future world will be like hell. It's amazing. They're amazing. Speaking of this, Trunks was emotional, and he clenched his fists and roared angrily. What is powerlessness and frustration? What is watching helplessly, unable to help anyone, watching companions and other human beings die one by one? That is darkness. It is despair. But, what about me? What happened to me? Could it be that I was also killed? Monkey King asked curiously. This is all about everyone, why is there no self? Not long after you didn't take part in the battle, Trunks said, gathering his emotions. You'd get very sick and die. Now it was Sun Wukong's turn to collapse. He was stunned. He didn't die in battle, but died of illness. Ah, this. You have a heart attack so bad that even a Super Saiyan can't get rid of it. This may be fate. There is no way for fairy beans to cure diseases, Trunks said, thinking of the hopeless world in the future, full of regret. I'm about to die. Sun Wukong clenched his fist. I can't fight them, I'm really not reconciled. Trunks doubted his ears a little. What Sun Wukong was worried about was not that his life was coming to an end, so he couldn't participate in the battle. Seeing Piccolo frowning for a moment, Vegeta continued to look over there indifferently. Trunks took out a small transparent bottle from his arms and handed it to Monkey King as he spoke. Is that the cure for Kakarot's heart disease? Sun Wukong happily took the medicine bottle. Why didn't you say that there is a special medicine earlier? My mother worked hard to develop the time machine, and I hope you can save the Earth. Trunks looked at the smiling Monkey King, and was also a little happy. If the future is a world like mine, it's better to change it. Can make a time machine. Then your mother is. Sun Wukong suddenly had a very magical feeling. Yes, she's over there too. Trunks nodded. Ah, Bulma. Sun Wukong suddenly turned his head to look at the crowd, shocked beyond belief. So Vegeta and Bulma, what the hell are they talking about? It's so mysterious. Yamcha and the others were scratching their heads. Can't everyone know about it? Wukong seems to be very surprised. Bulma was surprised when he saw Sun Wukong's actions. What kind of news can surprise Monkey King? How curious. I thought Yamcha would marry Bulma. Sun Wukong turned his head to look at Vegeta and Bulma with emotion. I don't understand, but somehow I think it's very possible. Strange, both of them have been looking this way. Yamcha said with some doubts. Pool nodded in agreement, still smiling. Soon, Trunks bid farewell to Monkey King and flew away. How did that boy go? Monkey King, who came back, frowned and thought, how should I tell everyone? Say it directly, this matter is very important. Piccolo crossed his arms and made up his mind for Monkey King with a blank face. Ah, did you hear that? Sun Wukong was surprised. From now on, if we want to save our lives, we must practice hard. Soon everyone, under Piccolo's explanation, told everyone present except Trunks' life experience. Everyone was very surprised. Only Vegeta still folded his hands on his chest. He will see how he feels when the time comes. This trip, the harvest is good, Frieza's spaceship. It's unbelievable, he's from the future. Yamcha put his hands in his pockets and smiled, but he didn't quite believe it. What future people, come to the past. Whoosh, until Trunks took the time machine and waved at them all in midair, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. I'm going to practice, the stunned Tianjin fan said tremblingly. I'll go too, the dumbfounded Keelan also said. So, Kakarot, what new skills did you learn on Yadrat? Piccolo knew about it. Haha, thank you Vegeta. Sun Wukong touched the back of his head and smiled excitedly. What move? Tell me. Bulma was also very curious. I just learned a trick, which is teleportation. Teleportation. Everyone was shocked, and they couldn't wait for Monkey King to demonstrate it. Watching Sun Wukong teleport to Kamisenjin Island thousands of miles away under the amazed eyes of the crowd, and took Kamisenjin's sunglasses and put them on his eyes, Vegeta was speechless. It's so childish, but why does he regret not learning teleportation a little bit? Then tell me, when and where will we meet up in 3 years' time? Tianjin fan was surprised for a moment, and then quickly asked about the serious matter. Because the enemy is very powerful this time, those who don't have confidence should not go. Piccolo glanced at everyone present. Otherwise, it may cause trouble to others. I agree. Yamcha nodded in agreement. It's funny. Vegeta was upset when he heard this. Aren't you the one who lacks the most confidence? When he was on Namek, Piccolo was the most popular on the stage, and he was the one who got beaten the most. What qualifications do you have to say such a thing? If you don't come after 3 years, isn't it because you don't have confidence? Cowardly. How is this possible? What did you say? Contest if you have the ability. Piccolo retorted not to be outdone. Okay, stop arguing. Before Vegeta could speak, Monkey King hurriedly persuaded the fight. I have a good idea, why not kill Dr. Gero who made the artificial man now? Bulma suddenly said, just ask Shenlong to help find it. That's a good idea, Keelan said before Bulma finished speaking. But Dr. Gero didn't do anything now. Sun Wukong frowned, feeling that it was not very good to do so. He wants to see how powerful the artificial man is, and he wants to fight against powerful people. Why, this is about the survival of the Earth, don't you all think so? Bulma looked at Monkey King angrily. But I want to fight. Sun Wukong looked at Bulma who was so excited, and said weakly. You idiot, I don't think it is necessary to play with this Saiyan, they are naturally aggressive. Bulma turned to look at the other people and shouted. If you die again this time, you can't be resurrected. Hee, you idiot woman is very insightful. Vegeta sneered. Unexpectedly Bulma could see it quite clearly. Saiyans are naturally aggressive. They are a fighting nation, they live to fight. I also want to fight and try my strength. Tianjin fan looked at the excited Bulma, with cold sweat streaming down his forehead. It's not just that Saiyans like to fight. He, a native of Earth, also likes to fight. Even if I die, I am willing. Ah, what are you guys? Bulma was dumbfounded. Can he die in order to fight against a powerful enemy? These are all neurotics, right? Bulma and we used to be enemies. I used to hate Wukong too, but in order to resist a powerful enemy, we had to join forces for a long time, and we all became friends. Keelan was wearing Guixianren's sunglasses, and said with an unclear expression, although this is not easy, the opponent is too strong. I don't understand what you're talking about. Bulma looked unhappy, and Keelan said something messy with emotion. Keelan approached Bulma's ear and whispered. If there is no common enemy, Piccolo should be fine, but what about Vegeta? It's hard to say that we may die sooner. Bulma was stunned when he heard that. Yes, now Vegeta is getting along with him in peace because of the spaceship. And not far away is the spaceship left by Frieza. Uncle Klin, you were right, but the last sentence. Sun Wuhan stood by and listened, and he looked at Klin seriously to explain. Don't talk nonsense. Did I say something wrong? Keelan crossed his arms and interrupted Sun Wuhan unceremoniously. This is the truth. Well, it's up to you. Although Bulma was dissatisfied, it was useless for her to oppose it alone. Idiot woman, don't gossiping here, follow me to see if Frieza's spaceship can be used. If he had known that the timeline was at this time, he would not have come. The whole process has nothing to do with him, except that he can harvest a spaceship. Vegeta looked gloomily at Bulma, who was still beeping with everyone, and gave the order. After speaking, he walked towards Frieza's spaceship in the distance without looking back. HMPH, we ordinary people are only at your mercy. Bulma muttered, pointing at Sang Wei, following Vegeta's pace. Well, fight for future peace. Sun Wukong didn't care about anything else, and directly raised his fist. Yeah, Sun Wuhan and Keelan responded passionately by raising their hands. Yamcha and Pooh looked at each other. Tianjin Fan and Piccolo didn't cooperate at all. Jiaozi just stared at Tianjin Fan in a daze. He also wants to practice and fight with Brother Tien. 3 years later, at 3:05 a.m. on May 12, all those who are confident will gather at the scheduled location. Sun Wukong looked into the distance and thumped. Everyone greeted each other and soon dispersed. Before leaving, Sun Wukong came back from a distance and planned to fly a plane to find Bulma in the spaceship. Goodbye. Bulma, I wish you a healthy baby. Huh, Bulma was puzzled by Sun Wukong's nonsensical words. Baby, Bulma, are you pregnant? Keelan looked at Bulma in surprise. When did she and Yamcha make progress so quickly? No, what nonsense is Sun Wukong talking about? Bulma quickly denied it. She and Yamcha just held hands and had a very innocent relationship. Okay. He must be telling us to get married quickly. Let's form a happy family. Yamcha next to him smiled smugly. Ha ha ha. Even he thinks so. Seeing Yamcha and the blue cat getting off the Bulma plane, Vegeta cut angrily. Cut. Seeing Bulma inspecting the spaceship's equipment, Yamcha looked at Vegeta, and finally mustered up the courage to ask, how long are you going to stay at Bulma's house? Vegeta didn't even look at him, he just walked aside and leaned on the hatch with his eyes closed. Who wants to talk to this kind of garbage? Lower your tone. For people like Yamcha, Vegeta said that the weak cannot get into his eyes. Even if Bulma wants to be with Yamcha in the future, Vegeta said that he has no idea. He has been fighting for survival almost all his life. Emotion is a thing that slows down Saiyans. He takes it very lightly, and it is dispensable. But Vegeta didn't know why he felt a little uncomfortable. Half an hour later, Bulma roughly checked the spaceship, walked to the cabin door, looked at Vegeta and said. Basically all the equipment can be used, except for a small broken hole that needs to be repaired. There is no major problem, but there is no gravity room inside, but there is a medical cabin. I want to take it back. Can I study it with my dad? Anything. Vegeta opened his eyes and replied indifferently. He doesn't care about these, what he cares about is whether the gravity chamber on the spacecraft can be built. Go back, speed up and fix the gravity chamber for me. Of course, the medical cabin must also stay. In the future, there will be more life and death battles to improve their combat effectiveness. As for the fairy bean, his self-esteem does not allow to beg for it from these earthlings. Bulma turned the spaceship back into a capsule and drove the spaceship back to Exodus. When going back, Pooh secretly asked Yamcha, how about we live in Bulma's house? After all, they live together alone. Yeah, Yamcha nodded. He always felt that if this continues, the top of his head must be a little green. But within a week, Brive and Bulma created a gravity chamber on the spacecraft, although only to the maximum limit of 1,000 times the Earth's gravity. After such a toss last time, Vegeta didn't dare not be satisfied with such a gravity room. He secretly calculated, take the spaceship and wait until he finds the most high-tech place before making changes. Vegeta leaned against the tree with his eyes closed, and Bulma came over with a tablet. I've checked, and in principle we can make the gravity chamber you want, but I don't have the material for the super compressive material. I remember checking the voyage records on the spaceship the day before yesterday. This material is on a planet called Bibri. Bulma stroked on the tablet and gestured for Vegeta to look at it. At present, the Earth does not have the ability to go to such a distant place. Even if it goes, it may not be collected due to environmental problems. Are there any photos of the materials? I'll just go there myself. Vegeta glanced coldly at Bulma. The woman was clearly using her. Knowing that I am not satisfied with the current gravity room, but I deliberately did not tell myself earlier. Oh, yes, then you can help me collect materials by the way, and it happens to be on that planet. Bulma smiled at Vegeta. Woman, blatantly using herself. Bulma is a vigorous woman, and she quickly prepared the photos and materials to be collected and put them in Vegeta's hands. Okay, when are you going to leave? Bulma put the back of her hand on her forehead to wipe off the sweat with gloves on. Vegeta gritted his teeth. Let's go right away. Is it so fast? Brive was a little surprised as he was doing the finishing touches with a cigarette in his mouth. He is really a failure as a scientist, he only researched less than half of the medical cabin. Vegeta is about to take the spaceship with the medical cabin away, and he hasn't done any research during this time. Under the parasol next to him, Yamcha, who was chatting with Mrs. Brive, turned his head and looked at the spaceship curiously. As Vegeta leaving, Yamcha looked over there unexpectedly. During this week, Vegeta either disappeared every day, or leaned against the tree trunk over there with his eyes closed. Having never had much contact with Bulma, Yamcha suddenly felt that the top of his head was not green anymore. Hey, so fast, then I have to prepare more food. The kindly Mrs. Brive got up quickly when she heard what Yamcha said, and walked towards the cold storage where the food was stored with a smile. Bulma's boyfriends are amazing. After the spaceship took off, it quickly disappeared into the sky. When Vegeta opened the food window, he saw that it was full of enough food for him to eat for a year. It was prepared by that idiot woman's mother. Why should she be so nice to him? It seems that from the age of 5 to after Frieza soldiers, he doesn't even remember his mother's appearance, and he is fighting at any time. Looking at the gradually shrinking blue planet outside the window, Vegeta suddenly made a sound. If I knew there was such a planet as the Earth a few years ago, I would definitely occupy the Earth, right? But what about after the occupation? The fighting spirit of the Isaiahs will still turn such a livable planet into an abandoned planet with poor resources and no way to survive in the end. Vegeta shook his head, shaking out the messy thoughts in his mind. He had to work hard to become stronger. The system sensed Vegeta's thoughts. Host, I think there are many ways for you to make yourself stronger. Chapter 71. For example, rely on me. The system wants to say that it can give any kind of blood. Hey, Vegeta snorted coldly. The most unreliable person in this world is others. This sarcasm made the system shut up, it thought secretly. The ability of the host depends on you. It doesn't remind you that in addition to relying on its system, there are also things like immortal beings and dragons making wishes. Let's see how powerful this host can be on his own. During the voyage to the planet Bibri, Vegeta's daily life was very boring. Apart from eating, he was training, and fell asleep when he was tired. Of course, Vegeta does not necessarily obey Bulma obediently. He feels that all eggs cannot be put in one basket. If he encounters a planet with signs of life, Vegeta will also land to see if there is a civilization with advanced technology. He felt that maybe he didn't need to find materials, and he could let people with advanced technology to help him fix the gravity chamber. There is Kakarot that he hates on the Earth, and if he can't go back, he won't go back. Sometimes Vegeta will follow the system's mission to kill some powerful creatures. Time passed by so unhurriedly. Along the way, Vegeta's patience was worn out, and he never encountered a high-tech civilization at all. So Vegeta accelerated towards Bibri. He didn't intend to waste time, so he should find materials and return to Earth to let Bulma build a gravity chamber. 3 days later, Vegeta's spaceship landed on the planet Bibri. Bili Xingshan has beautiful mountains and clear waters, and the environment is beautiful, which is no worse than the Earth. Of course, that was before meeting Frieza's army. The current Bibri star is a desolate planet overgrown with weeds. Since the invasion of Frieza's army, the surviving natives of these planets are very rare. As soon as Vegeta got off the spaceship, he felt a very familiar aura, and he turned his head to look east. Over there, that anger. It's Nappa. He's about to die. What's going on? According to the information given by Bulma, people who know the route will not go to the planets that Frieza's army has attacked. Why is Nappa here? Could it be that they are fighting with Frieza's army? But after the great battle on Namek, there should be few people in the remaining Frieza army who can kill Nappa. When Vegeta was about to close the spaceship, some huge mutant monsters that looked like scorpions suddenly appeared around him. These scorpions were all greenish-brown, with barbs on their long tails glowing coldly, and they swarmed towards Vegeta's spaceship from the cracks in the rocks. Judging from the breath alone, the combat power of a single scorpion is actually around 5. For the current Vegeta, it is easier than crushing an ant. But for Nappa, looking for death, Vegeta squinted. Those scorpions actually wanted to destroy his spaceship. He waved his hands at the group of scorpions with a cold face and fired Qigong waves. A group of scorpions as high as 3 meters was blown away. In an instant, the smoke was filled, and Vegeta rushed into the scorpion group, grabbed a scorpion by the tail and threw it away. When the scorpion was thrown into the air, Vegeta's index finger glowed, and a single air bomb exploded the scorpion in midair. Brush. After beheading a scorpion, these scorpions were not shocked by Vegeta at all. One of them seemed to have no IQ, but rushed towards the spaceship in one go. Ha! Vegeta flew into the air, pointing his index finger at the scorpions, one air bomb after another, shooting the scorpions straight through like bullets. Brush brush. For those scorpions far away from the spaceship, Vegeta was even more merciless, and the Qigong wave swung them over, killing a large number of them. Boom. Soon, countless scorpions were killed by Vegeta, and the broken arms and limbs of scorpions were everywhere. Boom. Vegeta pressed somewhere on the hull of the spaceship, and the spaceship turned into a capsule the next moment. Vegeta put away the capsule and flew up, quickly darting towards the east. In a few seconds, he arrived at Nappa's place. Nappa was in a state of distress at the moment, kneeling on the top of the cliff dressed in rags. In front of him were countless huge blood-red monsters that looked like cockroaches. Behind Nappa was a woman in a brown-red cloak, holding a baby in her arms, and the baby was crying non-stop. The woman didn't have the slightest intention to coax, she looked nervously at the cockroaches approaching her. Nappa roared, and continuously fired Qigong waves at the cockroach beasts with one hand. Brush. Explosions continued, but they had no effect on the cockroaches. They still rushed towards Nappa. Looking at the woman behind him, Nappa had no choice but to wave his fist. His breath gradually weakened, and he was completely supported by meaning. Vegeta was surprised that although Nappa's combat power had risen to more than 3 in the past few years, he hadn't yet successfully stepped into the Super Saiyan form. The woman stepped back, the cliff behind her moved with her footsteps, and the gravel at her feet fell towards the cliff. Nappa, what should I do? There is no way to retreat. There was despair in the woman's voice. I got you in trouble. I shouldn't have ran out of the tribe to find you. What nonsense are you talking about? My Nappa will definitely protect you to the death. Because Nappa was distracted by talking, he was swept by a cockroach beast's tentacles, and his body flew upside down and rolled on the ground several times. He struggled to get up, but he couldn't get up, and the animal skin on his body was even more broken. A slightly larger golden monster spread its huge wings behind it and flew silently to the edge of the cliff, aimed at the woman and swooped down. Boom. Ah! The woman staggered from being bumped, lost her footing and fell towards Xuankong. Nappa. She instinctively hugged the child in her arms and cried desolately. Tana, no. Seeing this scene, Nappa yelled heart-piercingly. Nappa stood up, suddenly angry. Brush. Without any hesitation, he swooped down towards the cliff, caught the woman's body and flew into the air. Tana. The cockroach beast that attacked the woman was waiting for the woman and child on the native planet to fall to death, but was rescued by someone and immediately rushed towards Nappa. Vegeta sent an air bomb past, and the golden monster was scorched black and fell from midair towards the cliff. Nappa looked in the direction of the attack, and looked at Vegeta in midair on the other side. Vegeta, Nappa exclaimed without even recovering from his breath. Vegeta crossed his arms and looked at Nappa with disgust. The bald head is still the same bald head. A bunch of garbage can't be dealt with. Nappa picked up the woman and baby and flew to Vegeta's side. Vegeta glanced at him and snorted coldly. Vegeta, these cockroaches are powerful. Seeing the group of monsters spreading their wings and taking off below, Vegeta snorted coldly with disdain, and the combat power was only a mere garbage of around 8. Nappa can't even deal with this rubbish. Feel the fighting power of Nappa, good guy. Nappa's combat power is actually around 12. So where did he get the courage to fight so embarrassingly in order to protect a woman and child? Vegeta blew the brain of one of the cockroaches approaching him with a punch, and the brains were scattered, and Vegeta shook the disgusting thing away with his air in disgust. Vegeta punched a cockroach, and soon there were headless cockroaches all over the ground. Vegeta, you're much stronger again. Nappa pursed his lips and looked at Vegeta, with the comfort of the elders in his eyes, and a little envy for the strong. Vegeta looked at Nappa with distaste. Put your disgusting eyes away, what's going on with these things? Well, it's left over from the previous research and development department. They specialize in the research and development of mutant creatures. Nappa replied looking at the wreckage all over the floor. Mouse. Vegeta frowned. There are many types of departments in Frieza's army. Some plunder other civilizations to develop new technologies, and some kill fighting races to research and improve combat effectiveness. And this is to combine the life of other planets with the life of the local planet to form a new race, which is the Biological Research and Development Department. Could it be that those guys are still on this planet? Can you find their research institute? Vegeta said, looking at the embarrassed Nappa. Maybe I can help a little. After all, Nappa is the person I have been with the longest. Nappa shook his head. I found it several times, but they were transferred in time. But I'm sure it's still on this planet. Because the giant cockroaches they met today were the latest breed. Before today, Nappa had never seen such a powerful monster. Vegeta asked the system inwardly, can you find those members of Frieza's army? No, the system refused without even thinking about it. Vegeta choked on the words of the system. That's right, why did you come to Bibri Star? Nappa said belatedly. Come and collect some materials. Vegeta flew behind Nappa indifferently. Soon, Vegeta followed Nappa and fell into a tribe. Nappa put the woman down gently, and introduced to Vegeta, this is the daughter of our tribe chief, Tana. Hi, Tana nodded friendly to Vegeta. Vegeta didn't look at Tana, turned to Nappa and asked, your current strength is really rubbish. But, Nappa was a little depressed, he has been working very hard, and even he is almost on par with Ginyu's fighting power. Am I really weak now? Nappa looked hesitantly and confused. Vegeta must have reached a stronger state, otherwise he would not have said such a thing. Vegeta didn't speak, he hooked his lips into a smile, and then violently ignited yellow flames all over his body, even his hair was dyed yellow. Super Saiyan. Nappa was overwhelmed by Vegeta's powerful aura, his whole body was shaking like a sieve, and he couldn't help but backed away. Even the people in the tribe were trembling, too scared to go out by the momentum. The next moment Vegeta restrained his breath, looked at Nappa playfully and asked, what do you think now? Is this the legendary Super Saiyan? Nappa looked tremblingly at Vegeta as if his whole body had just been picked up from the water. A prince is a prince, it really is different. I think you should follow me in the future, you practice like this. Vegeta is a little disgusted, Saiyans must embark on the road of Super Saiyans. Nappa turned his head to look at the woman who was hiding at the door of the house holding the child, with a look of hesitation on her face. Is that your woman and child? Vegeta stepped back silently with his arms folded, and distanced himself from Nappa. Seeing Nappa's height of more than 2 meters, Vegeta suddenly felt his height get hurt, but I really didn't expect that a bald and rough guy like Nappa also has a partner. Think about it, too, just because he is single, Nappa is not allowed to die alone, right? Hee, it's my woman, but the child is not mine. Nappa didn't notice Vegeta's movements, and looked at Tana with gentle eyes. Vegeta was stunned for a moment, unable to turn his head around. What does it mean to be your woman, but the child is not yours? This amount of information seems to be a bit large. Receiver, we don't have a child yet, and this child is an orphan of other dead people in the tribe. Seeing that Vegeta's expression was a little stiff, and hearing what Nappa said, Tana quickly yelled to explain. Vegeta snorted secretly, Nappa is still that stupid big guy who can't speak. Vegeta, how long do you plan to stay on this planet? Nappa didn't respond to anything special about what he just said. He was very happy to see Vegeta for a long time, and introduced the things in the tribe enthusiastically to Vegeta. Seeing Nappa like this, Vegeta was a little surprised that this guy would actually meet a woman he likes, and would stay in the woman's tribe to protect the tribe. What a change. I always feel that Nappa doing this makes me feel a little inexplicably familiar. This is the house of me and Tana, come in and sit down. I'll ask Tana to prepare food for you. Before entering the door, Nappa suddenly slapped himself on the head, turned to look at Vegeta behind him and asked. Vegeta, did you make a wish with Shenlong later? Nappa thought of this important question. Has the wish of immortality come true? Vegeta felt something suddenly flashed in his mind, of course. Vegeta proudly talked about what happened on Namek. The two sat at the table, gobbling up food and chatting, feeling as if they had returned to the past. Are you going to stay on this planet for this woman? Vegeta asked suddenly. Nappa stopped stuffing the food in his hands, and looked at Tana who was sitting beside him quietly coaxing the child, his eyes were full of tenderness. Yes. Vegeta was a little surprised. It seems that Nappa has experienced a lot. I want to protect her. Nappa continued to swallow his food and looked at Tana, with firmness in his tone. Vegeta didn't say much. Everyone has their own thoughts, and he has no right to dissuade them. And for some reason, Bulma's face actually flashed in his mind while listening to Nappa's disgusting words. After leaving some supplies, Vegeta left without nostalgia. His Royal Highness Prince Vegeta. Nappa's eyes welled up with tears, and he recalled the memories with Vegeta on planet Vegeta in his mind. His Royal Highness has grown up, and he is no longer attached to himself, and it seems that he will never catch up with him. Vegeta took the detector made by Bulma to find the material. When seeing Nappa, Vegeta suddenly wanted to grow taller for no reason. This feeling is very urgent. Because it suddenly occurred to him that Bulma's height is 165 centimeters, and Kakarot's is 175 centimeters. And I am 164 centimeters, official source. It's here. Vegeta hovered over the crater, looking around at the photos from time to time, looking for the material he needed. Silver rock. But what Vegeta saw was the lime that had been erupted by the volcano, and he didn't see anything silver. Ha! Vegeta impatiently fired a gas bomb at the volcano. As the smoke dissipated, the silver rock was soon exposed, and Vegeta smiled with his lips stretched out and swiped a few times at the rock below. A silver rock the size of a house was neatly cut out, and Vegeta dragged it to look at the detector. The materials Bulma needs show that the location is actually on the other side of the planet. It's really troublesome. Saying so, Vegeta still held the silver rock and flew towards the north. Near the display point, Vegeta threw the silver rock on the ground, falling onto the snow. Surrounded by a vast expanse of whiteness, the north wind howled and mixed with snowflakes falling on Vegeta's hair. Brush. Not long after landing, a white figure rushed towards Vegeta. A fluffy ball opened its mouth wide, and its sharp teeth bit down on Vegeta's shoulder. Then there were 2, 3, and countless white balls crawling all over Vegeta's body. Vegeta frowned slightly, and he reached out and pulled one of the fur balls off. Both eyes of the fur ball were hidden in the white hair. The fluffy little ball was only the size of a mouse, but its teeth were so sharp that it could bite a hole in Vegeta's protective suit. Chirp! The caught fur ball kept struggling to escape Vegeta's clutches, and it grinned in demonstration. What the hell? Vegeta threw this thing out, and his whole body was violently blown away and killed. Vegeta overlapped the 2 photos and switched to the next one. After looking at it, he quickly found what Bulma was looking for. In the vast white world, the red crystals are really too dazzling. Dragging these 2 big things, Vegeta was stunned like a grasshopper, and he flew towards the tribe of Nappa. Go back and tell this guy, you can't be stuck in a gentle village just because you have a woman, you have to become stronger, and you can't lose the face of the Saiyans. As soon as he arrived at the top of Nappa's tribe, Vegeta saw all kinds of strange monsters surrounding the tribe. Many warriors from the tribe fought against those monsters together with Nappa. Guard the tribe, go up. I'll guard over there, you go to Nappa's side. Vegeta silently watched Nappa standing in the front, that posture. It's a situation where one person is desperate and 10,000 people are unstoppable. Nappa seems to have found his own home. When Vegeta thought for a while and was about to leave, he saw a small detection plane flying below him. It's a probe from Frieza's army. Vegeta followed quietly, and soon found the base of Frieza's army among a large mountain. I finally know why the combined beasts were wiped out so quickly. Looking at the picture from the detector, a man in a white coat angrily pounded on the keyboard. What should I do? That guy seems to be one of the traitorous Saiyans. Another man sitting beside the screen frowned. We are scientific researchers, not fighters, another girl complained playfully. Bang! While several people were talking, Vegeta backed away from the door of the laboratory and then flew away. Let Nappa solve these problems by himself, and the monsters he creates from time to time are enough for Nappa to practice. Vegeta lifted the huge material again and flew into the air. Throwing out the capsule and looking at the size of the spaceship, Vegeta cut the material into countless small pieces with gas and brought them into the spaceship. This trip is perfect. For Nappa, that's fine too. With the materials, he can have a gravity chamber, press one for the spaceship, and one for Bulma's house. Looking forward to the new gravity room, Vegeta set the route directly and walked to the gravity room to train himself. Before, he was blasted by the gravity chamber on the Earth and made himself walk around the gate of life and death. His combat power directly doubled to the normal 1 million, and the Super 1 combat power was 5 million. Coupled with this year and a half of hard training and challenges on some planets in the universe, his Super 1 combat power has reached a maximum of 7 million. That is the normal 1400 million. Although it dragged a little in the middle and was not very satisfactory, it was quite impressive. After training, Vegeta rushed through a shower and asked the system, "How much is my blood in Super Saiyan 2 activated?" Update information: the host Vegeta, the normal state is 1400 million, the strongest combat power is 7 million, and Super Saiyan 2 has activated 60%. Vegeta calculated that he had solved no less than a dozen opponents in the past year and a half. Although it is very easy, every time this system gives 1 point or 2 points, it is very stingy. The system issued a task. The host went to the Earth to contact Bulma and develop into love, and the task was completed to reward Super Saiyan Bloodline 2 activation to 80. The next moment, the system seemed to have a feeling and released this task again that Vegeta had been unwilling to do. Vegeta disliked seeing other people's love before, but now that Nappa has a partner, will Vegeta remain indifferent? The system secretly complained, "Look, you don't want to do what I give you high rewards, and you don't like what I give you low rewards. What a difficult host to serve." The system sighs. Bulma's face quickly flashed in Vegeta's mind, her serious look when she repaired her spaceship. Roll. Vegeta shook his head, and after setting up the route to the Earth, he returned to the room and lay down on the bed and fell asleep. Great morning. Bulma was a little confused. When she sat up from the bed, she saw Vegeta's spaceship landed in the back garden of her home. The loud noise woke her up. Vegeta is back. Bulma blinked, surprised. She had thought for so long that Vegeta would never return to Earth again. Bulma's heart suddenly beat a few times at this moment, and she quickly lifted the quilt. "Why have you been away for more than a year? I thought you wouldn't come back." Bulma immediately rushed to Vegeta. "Where are the materials? Have you been drinking?" Vegeta just got off the spaceship when she saw Bulma in her pajamas. She still smelled of alcohol. "Drinking? Well, I broke up with Yamcha. That guy is always flirting and messing around." Thinking of this, Bulma clenched his fists angrily. Oh, Vegeta was not interested at all. He pointed to the spaceship and said, "Everything is inside, please get it up for me." Of course, Vegeta would not tell Bulma that he didn't want to come back, but he didn't find any high-tech civilization at all in the past year or so. Of course, he would never say such a thing. Brive and his wife went on a trip this week. It was very quiet from day to night, and the whole backyard was quiet. Vegeta, who was forced by Bulma to take a bath, still leaned on the edge of the tree trunk in the old position and closed his eyes to rest. In the early morning, Bulma came out of the research room, without the help of Brive. For Bulma, the workload was a bit heavy. Feeling too tired, when she walked out of the laboratory, she saw Vegeta leaning against the big tree in the garden. "I'll continue to do it tomorrow. Are you hungry? I'll take a shower and have dinner together." Vegeta didn't answer. He just leaned against the edge of the tree trunk and closed his eyes to rest. As long as he can create a gravity chamber he is satisfied with, he doesn't care about anything. Bulma went to the balcony after washing and saw Vegeta still motionless. Standing under the moonlight, Vegeta exuded a distant indifference all over his body, as well as that noble and untouchable temperament. So handsome, and he's still so powerful. Bulma smiled and asked the servant to bring some food. She held up the red wine and shouted to Vegeta below, "Do you want a drink?" Vegeta snorted coldly and flew to the balcony. Ignoring the goblet that Bulma handed out, he picked up the things on the table and started eating. "Have a drink." Bulma was still holding the wine glass, looking at Vegeta. Vegeta looked at Bulma coldly, but he took it helplessly, and Vegeta accidentally touched Bulma's wet and hot fingers. For no reason, he trembled inwardly. Bulma noticed that Vegeta's body was stiff, and chuckled, "What are you doing? Don't move my mind." Vegeta ignored Bulma's expression with disdain, and cursed bitterly in his heart, "This idiot woman." Vegeta's idea is only to become stronger and stronger. How could there be such a thing as a woman in his eyes? Vegeta didn't drink much and was eating all the time, but Bulma was looking at the night sky and drinking a glass of wine. Vegeta looked up at Bulma from time to time. He was very puzzled. Wouldn't he be broken in love? As for As for it, the system stared secretly, and first blocked Vegeta's voice. Vegeta. Bulma suddenly put down the wine glass holder, stood up unsteadily and walked in front of Vegeta. Vegeta frowned dissatisfied, and Bulma's body was full of alcohol. I like you, Bulma murmured softly with dim eyes, and then staggered and fell to the ground. Vegeta gnawed on a large piece of chicken leg, reached out and grabbed Bulma by the collar, lifted her from the falling position, and threw her back on the chair. You cancerous man, the system scolded angrily, but because of the shielding, Vegeta couldn't hear its voice. Vegeta felt that he had almost eaten, and he was going back to his own guest room. It was time to sleep. But Bulma, who was thrown on the chair, suddenly got up and rushed towards Vegeta's figure. Vegeta wanted to attack reflexively, but he froze when he smelled the strong smell of alcohol, and suppressed his attack. What are you doing? Woman, let me go. Don't go, stay with me. I'm lonely now too. Bulma, who put his arms around Vegeta's waist, just blushed, but his eyes were long gone from the previous confusion. Let go, you woman, stay away from me. Vegeta yelled angrily, but he couldn't hurt the woman. If something bad happens, who will he find to build a gravity room for him? Bulma didn't listen to Vegeta's words at all, and wrapped his arms around Vegeta's waist even tighter. I have worshipped heroes and strong people since I was a child. When I was with Yamcha, he was indeed a strong man. But after so many years, his plainness has alienated me more and more. He always likes to make me angry. After being with you for a while, I realize that I have changed my mind. I like you. What can Vegeta do when a beautiful girl begs you so humbly? So Vegeta picked up Bulma directly and walked towards her room. I'm offline, I'm still young. The system went offline happily. In-depth communication overnight. Vegeta looked at the pale sky outside. He put on his clothes and looked at the person who was still asleep on the bed. Don't worry, once we Saiyans recognize each other, we will be together forever. At this time, Vegeta still had that kind of unique thinking. If Bulma really liked him, he would be responsible. If you don't like it, then go away, he doesn't care too much. System task. The host and Bulma contacted and developed into love. The task has been completed. The reward Super Saiyan Bloodline 2 has been activated 80. The system that just went online broke down happily. Don't ask, I went offline early last night. Don't make small moves for me when you send missions in the future, if you hurt my woman. Vegeta lowered his face and warned the system in his heart. If the no system had a brain, it would definitely be in trouble at this moment. It was actually discovered that the little action in the gravity room last time. This year's host is so difficult to take care of, and if you didn't say it at the time, what kind of old account is being turned over now? Once you have a woman, your attitude changes immediately. Hearing the sound of the room being brought up, Bulma turned over lazily on the bed, and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. Vegeta needs a gravity chamber, so naturally he won't leave Earth. Vegeta, who walked out of the room, came to the courtyard to look at the spaceship as if thinking of something, and walked towards Bulma's research room. After a while of rummaging, Vegeta took the Dragon Ball radar and went out. For Vegeta, collecting Dragon Balls naturally did not have any difficulties. After half an hour, he looked at the 7 Dragon Balls in a daze. It's not dark yet, Sun Wukong, they are all on the Earth. If you were discovered by Monkey King and the others when you made a wish. The scene of the death of the society. Host, what wish do you want to make? The curious system suddenly asked. What's none of your business? Vegeta snorted coldly, sitting cross-legged on the ground, waiting for the night to fall. Tell me, maybe I can give you some advice to the host. The system is really curious what kind of wish Vegeta will make. Freedom of ultimate intention. Be an angel, inheriting God of destruction, become the king's father, or cosmic invincibility. Earth's Dragon Balls can't do it. From early morning to evening, the time was long, and the system started chatting with Vegeta again. Host, I remember you should have seen Dragon Ball, right? Vegeta nodded. What's the problem? Your understanding of the plot of the Dragon Ball world doesn't look like a true Dragon Ball fan. I studied everyone's fighting style, and their moves. Vegeta refused to admit that he was a pseudo-fan. The system spat. Host, I found that you like to look for opponents everywhere in a spaceship, isn't there one on Earth? For example, Frieza and his father, who you couldn't catch up with, and the next artificial human. Vegeta was said to be stupefied. It seemed like this. It's just that he doesn't like Kakarot on Earth, maybe because of Vegeta's emotions. In addition, he used to take on missions and go wandering. Even before Vegeta came to Earth, he invaded planets everywhere in the universe. I am used to wandering. I never thought I could settle down in one place. Host, so you really have a problem. People who come to the Dragon Ball world, who doesn't want to knock fairy beans, make wishes with Dragon Balls, and take various methods to make themselves stronger. These words made Vegeta fall into deep thought. Vegeta silently picked up the Dragon Ball on the ground, wrapped it with him, and flew towards the midair. Host, you don't want to make a wish? The system asked in surprise. Vegeta didn't answer. He soon saw Kalanta towering among the clouds. Kalen Tower, Cat Immortal, Immortal Bean. Isn't there still a super god? The system listened to Vegeta's heart, and it felt that his host was really a fake fan, so it couldn't help but speak out. If it didn't look down on those weak chickens, it really didn't want to find someone like a mercenary. After leading this class, it's better to change to an otaku next time. Vegeta looked up at the towering Kalen Tower for a long time, then rushed towards the top of the tower suddenly. Falling into the tower, Vegeta glanced at the Neko Senjin who was carrying a cane in front of him, and the big fat Yajiro guard who was leaning on the pillar and sleeping soundly there. Despair. As soon as Vegeta fell to the ground, the cat fairy's hair exploded all over his body. It's Vegeta, the terrifying Saiyan. You have super magic water, and fairy beans. Vegeta put his eyes on the cat fairy, which made the cat fairy back again and again in fright. I'll give you money. Vegeta frowned, and Vegeta had never liked this timid furry animal very much. This amount of money is nothing to Bulma's family, and she doesn't care about it. Aren't you here to kill me? Hearing Vegeta's words, the cat fairy breathed a sigh of relief, and it boldly approached Vegeta. Do you want the super divine water to develop its potential? Cat Immortal asked tentatively, with cold sweat on its forehead. It was really a difficult request. Your strength is already very strong. You probably don't need super divine water. The meaning of the cat fairy is obvious. He is not willing to give Vegeta super magic water. The current Vegeta is even more powerful than Monkey King. Once he does something on the earth, it will be bloody. Let's make an offer. How much money is not a problem. Vegeta didn't listen to it at all. If the cat fairy continues to babble, he does not recommend using violence to solve the problem, and he will not give a penny at that time. But if they can cooperate well, Vegeta doesn't intend to turn against each other. After all, this cat is a grower of fairy beans. Mao Shanren looked at the guard Yajiro who was sleeping like a dead pig next to him. The cold sweat on his forehead became more intense, and he grabbed his crutch tightly. Super divine water. I can give it to you, but you have to guarantee that you will not harm the earth, let alone any living beings on the earth. Not even a single blade of grass. It is also afraid of death, but it has to bear the responsibility of being a cat fairy. Yes, Vegeta readily agreed, and under the signal of the cat fairy, he followed it down the stairs. Vegeta looked at the 3 large water tanks placed in the center of the room, frowning. This is super divine water. There is not even a cover on the water tank. Watching the cat fairy casually pick up the small jar from the ground and put his hand in to scoop it, Vegeta suddenly felt. He doesn't want to drink this kind of super magic water. How did such a careless cat breed a magical fairy bean? Although Vegeta dislikes it, as long as he drinks it, he can become stronger, and Vegeta won't even frown. Will this broken place of yours be shaken down by my powerful power just because I drink it? Vegeta asked uncertainly while holding the super magic water. You're underestimating Kalanta. You can't destroy it with your normal strength. You can't help yourself from becoming a Super Saiyan, right? The cat immortal knocked on the ground with his cane on purpose, with a proud look on his face. Kalen Tower is the strongest building in the world. HMPH. Vegeta snorted coldly, and drank the super divine water in one gulp. For the first few seconds, Vegeta didn't feel anything at all, just when he looked suspiciously at the cat fairy. His heart trembled suddenly, throbbing, followed by indescribable pain all over his body. This triggering potential is much worse than that of Namek's Great Elder. Vegeta felt as if his body was being crushed inch by inch under the ultra-limit gravity. Vegeta gritted his teeth, trying not to let himself make a sound. The cat fairy in front of him was staring straight at him. Vegeta wanted to scream in pain, and the unspeakable pain spread from the body to the spirit. When the pain reached a peak, Vegeta's perception slowly recovered. Not much combat power has been added. Vegeta looked at his hands and sensed it, and it was only about 200 million. It's impossible for your potential to be so small. Could it be that you have developed your potential before? Mao Shanren hurriedly explained with cold sweat on his forehead. However, you are really amazing. You are the only person I have seen who has not been poisoned to death due to the side effects of drinking super magic water. Seeing Vegeta's unfriendly expression, Neko Immortal quickly flattered him, but this was also telling the truth. Vegeta didn't have any expectations for this super divine water from the beginning, and his strength is still solid by his own practice. However, isn't the side effect a return from life and death? Why doesn't it increase combat power? Garbage. Could this guy be a fake drink for himself? Then since this water is useless to me, let's talk about Sento. Vegeta stared suspiciously at Cat Senjin. This conversation lasted for nearly 10 minutes. The cat fairy does not need money. It will stay on the Kalen Tower forever and will not need money. So Vegeta promised that fish and all the high quality and good things needed for life can be in place. Moreover, he can have people serve the cat fairy in place, and the supplies are replaced once a week, with high-end fresh fish as a gift. Cat Immortal fell into such beauty in an instant, and even looked at Vegeta with a lot of kindness in his eyes. The production of celestial beans is difficult and rare, and with the consumption of these Monkey King and others, the celestial beans are even more pitiful. And Sun Wukong and the others are always prostitutes for nothing. Also, the fat man Yajiro guards secretly ate a lot just now, and the fairy beans were even in short supply. Under the temptation of Vegeta, the cat fairy promised to give Vegeta 50 celestial beans regularly every year. HMPH, Shondo sees that you can still be a fake. After negotiating everything, Vegeta, who was leaving, gently warned Yajiro's guards. If he dared to steal fairy beans, he would make a special trip to kill him. Vegeta found an unoccupied remote place and continued to wait for dark. Come out, Shenlong. Vegeta crossed his arms and looked at Shenlong on the ground. Seeing the appearance of Shenlong, the sky was still the same dark night. Vegeta quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Tell me your wish, I can make any wish come true. Shenlong's voice was rich. Quote, Vegeta glanced at the ground from the corner of his eye, dawdling for a long time before exiting. Let me grow 10 to 15 centimeters taller. He is taller than Kakarot. The next moment, Vegeta felt that his gaze was much higher when he looked at anything. Your wish has come true. With the disappearance of Shenlong, the system was already laughing madly, but it was quite witty and blocked its own voice so that Vegeta could not hear it. After dinner, Bulma was at the railing and saw Vegeta fall to the balcony on the second floor. She asked curiously, You today? Before she finished speaking, she noticed something was wrong. Vegeta became much taller. Seeing the nonchalant Vegeta walking past Brive, and Brive tilting his head to look at Vegeta with a cigarette in his mouth, he was also a little puzzled. Vegeta seems to have grown taller. Is it an illusion? How can a person grow taller all of a sudden? Vegeta ignored them, and walked towards the room on his own. Looking at Vegeta's figure, Bulma covered his mouth and suppressed a desperate smile. It turned out that today I was looking for Dragon Balls, and I made a wish. Soon half a month passed, and the gravity chamber that Vegeta wanted was finally completed. The materials are all the ones you prepared, and the gravity I modulated is according to your requirements, but the maximum is 800 times. When you go in, be sure to evacuate the air pressure and turn on the air generator. Vegeta was indifferent on the surface, but his heart was already impatient. Although it shows 1000 times, it can't be higher than 800. I remember you turned it up to 150 times before. Vegeta was a little surprised. This woman is quite careful. Step by step. Before Bulma could speak, Vegeta had already pushed people out of the gravity chamber. Bulma was annoyed, and immediately laughed again. She walked to the opposite room. HMPH, I also set up surveillance and sent a message. Do you think it's enough to push me out? Turning on the screen, Bulma sat on the chair and looked at the screen displayed on it. Vegeta did listen to her words and operated in sequence. But the face slap came too fast, like a tornado. The next moment, Vegeta directly set the gravity to 250 times. After turning it on, his movements in the Super 1 state were also very difficult. Vegeta, you didn't listen to me. Bulma yelled directly at the Mai in front of him. The sound came out of nowhere, and Vegeta was so frightened that he almost staggered and fell to the ground. This woman, who is used to her? After that, Vegeta never proposed to leave the Earth in a spaceship, and he would be immersed in the training of the gravity room during the day. Occasionally, it disappears for a period of time inexplicably. But as long as they come back, Vegeta and Bulma will sleep in the same room tacitly at night. But Vegeta has never touched Bulma. He knows that Bulma has his child in his belly. The days passed quietly for 3 months, as usual. Vegeta came out of the gravity chamber wet all over, and he saw Bulma talking to him shyly. Congratulations, you are now a father. Vegeta smiled lightly, knowing that there is still a difference between the feeling that Bulma told him in person. At that moment, Vegeta's heart had all the soft touches before. Pregnant Bulma is more emotionally sensitive. Sometimes Vegeta would find Bulma sitting up startled in the middle of the night, reaching out to check if he was still there. You guy, I thought you left me in a spaceship, Bulma murmured looking at Vegeta's side face. Vegeta pretended to be asleep, but when Bulma lay down again, he would purposely turn around and hug her. Time flies, and little Trunks was born. Beside the big tree in the courtyard, Bulma sat under a sun umbrella in the courtyard, with a baby carriage beside him. Inside lay a chubby little boy, and Bulma looked at the little baby with a smile on his face. Vegeta came out of the gravity room as usual, and smiled slightly when he saw this warm scene. Vegeta, seeing Vegeta, Bulma waved at him, come and see your son, how cute he is. For 3 months, Bulma has been saying this to Vegeta every day since she gave birth to Trunks. You can say it dozens of times a day. Vegeta quickly returned to his indifferent face, and walked towards the house without a single pause while holding the towel. Aha, you're so cute, aren't you? Bulma picked up Trunks in the crib with a happy expression on her face. Shi tong fa bu ren wu, su zu qian wang nan do shi nan fang 9 gong li xiao dao shang da by 19 hao a 20 hao, ren wu wan shang zhong li chao ji sai ya ren shui mai 2 ji huo dao 85%. Update information. The host Vegeta, the normal combat power is 1800 million, the Super 1 combat power is 9 million, Super Saiyan 2 has activated 80%. Bah! Vegeta took a shower, touched the water on his face, and spat with his head turned. You haven't issued a mission for more than a year, and you only give 5% to the mission that is released now. Vegeta didn't like this very much. On the morning of May 5th, Bulma rarely got up early. She stood at the gate with Trunks in her arms and saw Vegeta off. Remember to come back alive, Bulma urged worriedly. Vegeta turned his head and looked to the other side in protective clothing, it's so annoying. Don't cause trouble outside, you know. Come back, Bulma rambled. Bulma looked helplessly at Vegeta's back, this man is still the same. Remember to think of me and Trunks. Hearing the sound of Bulma yelling at the door, the veins on Vegeta's forehead exploded, and Bulma was so verbose. Seeing Vegeta fly away, Bulma also went around to the backyard. Looking at the plane in front of her, she said to Trunks in her arms, let's go, Mom will take you to scare Wukong and the others too. It is a small island 9 kilometers southwest of Nandu, a bustling town. Monkey King, Krillin, and Piccolo gather. Wukong and the others are here. Yamcha stretched out his hand to greet the few people in midair. Despair, everyone fell to the ground and looked at Bulma holding a child who was a few months old in surprise. Bulma, you are late, we have been waiting for a long time. Yamcha muttered dissatisfied. Hi everyone, Gohan, you have grown taller. Bulma greeted everyone with a smile. Son Wukong frowned, what nonsense, what are you doing here? Take a look. Bulma didn't care, and said without any fear, don't worry, I'll take a look at the man-made man and leave. It's strange, why are you holding a child? Keelan's forehead was covered with cold sweat, his eyes were wide open, and his face was full of shock. Sun Wuhan had a blessing on his face, are you really married to Yamcha? When Yamcha heard this, he folded his hands on his chest in displeasure, HMPH, the child is not mine. Trunks, your father is Vegeta. Monkey King stepped forward to tease the child in Bulma's arms. How do you know? Bulma was surprised. After hearing this, Sun Wukong hurriedly explained, I just feel that way. The kid looks too much like Vegeta, doesn't he? But, how do you even know the name? Bulma was still puzzled. Hee. Sun Wukong smirked awkwardly. Ah, the child is really Vegeta's. Keelan was extremely surprised, as if the sun was rising from the west. Is it time to chat now? Where's Vegeta? Didn't he come over? Piccolo stood aside, watching them chatting, dissatisfied. I didn't know he left early. Bulma said calmly. What time is it? Son Gohan asked Bulma, who was wearing a watch. 9:30, Bulma raised his hand and looked at the watch on his wrist, it's still minutes away. Get out of here quickly, don't hurt the child. Sun Wukong looked at Bulma and warned seriously. Didn't I say that? I will leave immediately after seeing the man-made man. Bulma murmured unwillingly. Little baby. Keelan and Sun Wuhan began to tease the child in Bulma's arms, which made Yamcha standing beside him feel that the top of his head was green. Take all precautions, and prevent yourself from being dumped by Bulma in the end. He looked stinky, I can't stand it. During the period, Yajirobe with an ugly face drove a car and threw a bag of fairy beans into Monkey King's hand. This is the fairy beans that Immortal Kalen asked me to send. When he first came out of Kalanta, he saw Vegeta, and since that guy shared some fairy beans, he had no chance to steal them. Everyone waited until after 10 o'clock, but still didn't feel any strange energy, until Yajirobe's plane was hit. Everyone be careful, it seems that someone has started to attack. Piccolo yelled vigilantly, reminding everyone. Whoosh! Yajirobe's plane was shot down and fell towards the small town below. What's going on? I didn't feel chi, Sun Wukong said in confusion. Cold sweat broke out on Sun Wuhan's forehead, and he thought of an important issue that they all ignored. Maybe it's because they're man-made that they don't have any energy at all. Because they couldn't feel the breath of the artificial man, everyone could only look for it in the town with their eyes, and at this moment the artificial man also appeared on the street. They brutally kill innocent humans and create chaos. Quickly turning his attention to Yamcha nearby, number 20 Drive Jero directly covered his mouth and pierced Yamcha's abdomen with his hand. Everyone noticed that Yamcha's breath was weak, and rushed to the artificial man one after another. At this time, Yamcha was only breathless, and Keelan fed him fairy beans to save his life. Piccolo proposes to fight in a place where no one is around. As a result, Robot number 20 stared and fired a beam of light directly to raise the town to the ground. Monkey King tried his best to stop it, but the town was still destroyed in a mess, and finally Android 20 agreed to change the place of the battle. Going back to the original gathering place, Yamcha was rescued and told that the artificial man has the ability to absorb energy, so Sun Wuhan and Keelan flew away to remind everyone. Yamcha also flew away anxiously. And Bulma, who was already very courageous, saw the three of them flying away one after another, so she began to encourage the Yajiro guard who had just returned from the plane to take her there. As Sun Wukong felt the discomfort in his body, he became a Super Saiyan from the very beginning, and the battle appeared overwhelming. When Monkey King, who was eager for success, was about to defeat Artificial Man number 19, his Chi Wave Kung Fu was absorbed by number 19, who was about to run out of energy. Seeing that Monkey King was panting badly, Keelan threw him a celestial beam, which had no effect at this critical moment. Sun Wukong had a heart attack. Seeing that Monkey King was about to be strangled to death by number 19, and everyone was intercepted by no. 20 Android, Vegeta appeared on the stage. Ah! Sun Wukong yelled in pain while being strangled, and the smirking number 19 was kicked away by Vegeta. Vegeta, who arrived in time, smiled under the surprised eyes of everyone. Only I can bully Kakarot, you artificial puppets are not allowed to interfere. Vegeta, everyone screamed in surprise. Unexpectedly Vegeta would suddenly appear here. Vegeta, Piccolo, who was shot by the number 20 light and fell unconscious on the ground, suddenly opened his eyes and shouted. Sand. Seeing Piccolo sitting up suddenly, Son Gohan looked at him worriedly. Uncle Piccolo. Under the surprised gaze of Android 20, Piccolo raised the corner of his mouth. I did it on purpose just now, to distract that guy and wait for an opportunity to save Wukong. But here comes Vegeta to meddle in his own business. Uncle Na Piccolo looked at Piccolo who stood up, Son Gohan was about to speak out, but was interrupted by Piccolo. Wukong is not easily defeated, no matter how strong the opponent is. Piccolo looked extremely confident. HMPH, I saw it all. Vegeta stood on the ground with his hands folded on his chest. Son Goku. You know you're not feeling well, but turning into a Super Saiyan will trigger a heart attack. Vegeta followed them all the way to restrain his anger, but he didn't make a move. It wasn't until this critical moment that he felt it was time to appear. Sure enough, he still needs to show up at such a critical moment in order to lead the show. Kakarot, you shouldn't die so easily. Vegeta raised his leg and kicked Monkey King's body towards Piccolo. Otherwise, the hard work of his future wife and son will be in vain. Click. Piccolo reached out and grabbed Monkey King, and frowned at Vegeta. Why did Vegeta grow taller all of a sudden? Could it be because of the Saiyans? Take him home and give him the medicine Trunks brought. Vegeta looked at Monkey King with contempt. If this guy really died, how lonely would the invincible self be? Goku. Father. I'll take him home. Sun Wufan quickly supported Sun Wukong's body. Everyone surrounded Monkey King, shouting with concern, not paying attention to the person in Vegeta's words at all, let alone Vegeta's height. Soon Yamcha took Monkey King and carried it on his shoulders. Let me do it, I can't help you. Wukong's disease is viral, and it may be contagious. You also need to take some medicine. Piccolo calmly told Yamcha. Yamcha carried Monkey King to the sky, and he turned his head to cheer everyone up. Come on everyone. Wukong, we must cure the illness. Keelan raised his fist and shouted worriedly. Goo, number 19, don't chase. Android number 19 bent its body and wanted to chase, but number 20 yelled to stop it. Number 19 looked dissatisfied at number 20 who was in midair, and number 20 explained aloud, it's not bad to put the biggest fun at the end. Monkey King is their old enemy, and it is a good arrangement to solve it at the end, isn't it? Get rid of these annoying guys first. Number 20 looked at the rest of the people in front of him. It will be more interesting when Vegeta comes. I said, feeling the two powerful androids in front of him. Klin's forehead was covered with cold sweat. It's better for us to retreat first. The boy from the future said that without Goku and everyone, even Vegeta would be killed by them. Keelan clenched his fists tightly, with a trembling tone. The current situation is almost exactly what he said. However, if we escape, they will definitely kill innocent people indiscriminately. Sun Wuhan really objected to Keelan's idea. Just wait for Wukong's illness to recover. Krillin pursed his lips. The only thing they can rely on is Wukong, because he is the most powerful. As for Vegeta, don't mention it. Maybe we won't be killed. Piccolo, who knew more about the situation, suddenly interrupted Kling. Actually, Wukong has already changed when he got sick. It is possible that the arrival of that young man has slightly changed history. Historical change. Keelan secretly startled, but those two guys are still very scary. No, 20. Number 19 asked number 20 respectfully, Vegeta, please leave it to me to clean up. Insufficient greed. You have absorbed a lot of Sun Wukong's energy, and you have already surpassed me. Number 20 squinted at number 19 and immediately agreed, forget it. The remaining 4 people will be dealt with by me. Hey, number 19 rolled his right foot back with an evil laugh, and locked his eyes on Vegeta. Cha, it can be seen from your actions just now that you don't seem to be very powerful. Vegeta looked at number 19 with disdain. It seems that number 17 and number 18 have not been awakened yet. It is estimated that number 19 must be destroyed and number 20 will be spared. He asked the system in his heart, System, this number 20 has to be saved to wake up numbers 17 and 18, should we kill him now? The system reissues the mission. The host defeats number 19. The reward for completing the mission is 2% activation of Super Saiyan Bloodline 83. Vegeta was speechless when he heard the system's words. What the hell, can you still play like this with a system? You made a mistake yourself. How dare you withhold my reward? A system that dare not make a sound at critical moments. Silence. Are you absorbing energy through your palms? I just need to be careful. Vegeta didn't care about the dog system, and turned his attention to No. 19. But you don't know the most important thing, I have all your strength. Number 19 snarled, not to be outdone. Hey, what you tested is only our past strength, even Kakarot's Super Saiyan can surprise you. Vegeta didn't bother at all. This guy's combat power was only around 1 million, which was nothing like his own. Saiyans are you puppets who can guess the accurate strength? Vegeta clenched his fists violently and turned into a Super Saiyan form. The powerful gas flames rolled up the airflow, making the surrounding dust raging, and the gravel on the ground was even blown up. What? Everyone was surprised by Vegeta's powerful combat power. Even number 20 looked at Vegeta with wide eyes and disbelief. His strength is stronger than when he was on Namek. Keelan was suppressed by the powerful arrogance and had difficulty breathing. HMPH, no matter how you change, you can't beat us. Monkey King is the best example. Number 20 quickly recovered from the shock. Hey, and number 19 couldn't wait to fight. He smirked and rushed towards Vegeta. Ha ha ha, snapped. Vegeta was deliberately hit in the face without moving, and he was hit only slightly backwards. Is it only to this extent? Are you androids afraid of pain? Vegeta straightened his body and smiled, kicking No 19's abdomen, causing him to fly off the ground. Vegeta unceremoniously raised his elbow and hit No 19's cheek again, and shot with his left foot. No 19's body was beaten quickly, and he flew upside down and landed on the ground, rubbing a long trace. Prick. Rustle. Under the constricted eyes of everyone, Vegeta walked towards number 19 who fell on the ground. What? Number 20's expression, which had finally calmed down, turned into shock again. Snapped. Vegeta looked at number 19 who fell to the ground, and asked with a smile on his lips, how is it? Have you seen your own weakness? Number 19, who was lying motionless on the ground, suddenly jumped up and was about to attack Vegeta. Vegeta was extremely indifferent, and kicked his legs with his hands on the ground behind him, kicking No 19's fat body into the air, and then turned his body over. With a kick, Vegeta flew straight up towards number 19 in midair. On the 19th, Vegeta, who was chasing up, stretched out his fist and was about to attack, but Vegeta easily dodged with just a slight tilt of his head. Courtesy was reciprocated, and Vegeta also politely swung his fist and hit number 19 on the nose, and No 19's nosebleed came down. Well, number 19 said in pain, glaring at Vegeta angrily. It's okay. Vegeta sneered and sarcastically, is your nosebleed blood or oil? Beep. Angry, 19's eyes stared, and beams of light shot into his eyes. As soon as Vegeta jumped, he avoided the beam and reached the top of No 19's head. He clasped his hands together and hit a heavy hammer, and No 19's body fell rapidly. What? Piccolo, Tianjin Fan, Keelan, and Son Gohan who were just below hurriedly backed away to avoid it. The body of number 19 was slammed to the ground, and the ground was hit with a huge explosion, and smoke was everywhere. When the smoke finally dissipated, a deep pit appeared on the ground. Number 19 was lying in the black soil after being bombed, and his life and death were unknown. Snapped. Swish. Vegeta fell to his feet and watched coldly. Number 19 suddenly opened his eyes and stretched out his hands, grabbing Vegeta's wrists. Ha ha ha, I caught it. I'm going to suck you dry. Otherwise, I won't let go. Number 19 laughed wildly, with an extremely proud look on his face. It's useless even if you kick me, I won't let go. Never let go, is it? Vegeta clenched his lips and sneered. It's funny that such a thing dares to speak wild words. Brush. Vegeta bent his legs and stepped on No 19's face. Let go. Ah, No 19's fat face was stepped on and deformed. It's really absorbing energy with your hands and increasing your own strength. Vegeta felt the flow of power in his body, and stretched his legs vigorously with a smile. Woo, yelled inarticulately. Ha, drink. Vegeta yelled and straightened his legs vigorously. Under his excessive force, No 19's hands were directly torn off. Number 19 fell to the ground. He stared at his wrists with wide eyes, only countless lines were broken. Vegeta landed with a backflip, and under the numb and stiff expression of everyone who was shocked, he threw the two hands that were still pinching his wrists to the ground in disgust. Goo. It turned out to be through this to absorb energy. Vegeta saw it, and stepped on it in disgust. Hey, it's quite good at absorbing energy, but seeing that your hands are useless, the price, tisk tisk. What Vegeta said is true. He just wanted to break the hands of number 19, but he was indeed absorbed about 2 million energy. Ah, number 19 stood up with difficulty, turned his head tremblingly and ran towards number 20 outside the pit, which made him scream out loud. Wow wow, it seems that I can still feel the horror. The artificial man. Vegeta slowly rose, stretched out his hand and aimed at the handless number 19 to launch an atmospheric wave. HMPH, number 20 gritted his teeth angrily when he saw Vegeta stretching out his hand. It's so powerful. Don't worry, I can arrange you to fight with me next. Vegeta glanced at number 20 ahead from the corner of his eye. A huge explosion sounded in front of number 20, the wind howled, the light was dazzling, and the eyes of everyone's numb faces kept getting smaller. Tom. The flat ground was blown out into a slope that was 3 times bigger than the deep pit before, and the head of number 19 was rolling and bouncing on the side, and it didn't stop until no 20's feet. Keelan's jaw almost dislocated. It's not the same as our estimate. But you still have no chance of winning. The dead duck on the 20th stubbornly refused to admit defeat, his words trembling and clamoring. Bah! Vegeta spat dissatisfiedly. This guy was really not afraid of the wind and bit his tongue. The system released the task. The host defeated number 19 and completed it, and rewarded Super Saiyan Bloodline 2 with 83% activation. Hearing the mechanical sound in his head, Vegeta fell to the ground, eliminated the Super 1 form, looked at number 20 and said jokingly. It really wasted a lot of my strength. Well, it's your turn next. Number 20 stared at Vegeta. He was somewhat frightened by Vegeta's powerful combat power, but he still shouted unrepentantly. Even if you are much stronger than I imagined, but you don't want to defeat the artificial man. Hey, your mouth is really tough. Vegeta snorted coldly. It seems that he has to slow down. He still has to wait for the 20th to wake up the 17th and 18th. Number 20 stared, then suddenly turned and ran. He escaped. He must have been trying to use the rocks as cover. Keelan yelled anxiously as he watched number 20 fly quickly into the distant rock pile. Vegeta didn't go after it either. He reached out and took out a fairy bean and stuffed it into his mouth. The one he bought with his own money tastes delicious. Seeing Vegeta's own fairy beans, everyone's eyes were a little surprised. The moment he swallowed the fairy bean, Vegeta felt that his physical strength and combat effectiveness had returned to their peak. I told you, you should go home and breastfeed. Vegeta turned his head and looked at the few people behind him, mocking, don't follow those who get in the way. Then Vegeta flew towards the pile of rocks. You actually said such a thing. Keelan felt very upset when he heard it. Just now, that guy really lost a lot of physical strength. If the 20th doesn't escape, it won't be a good fruit in the fight. Vegeta is really a fighting genius. A drop of cold sweat rolled down Piccolo's calm face, and what he said made Krillin and Gohan both stunned. Huh, is he really that powerful? Keelan couldn't believe it. From my point of view, at least he is much stronger than Wukong now. Piccolo frowned. He has been practicing with Monkey King these days. He knows exactly how powerful Monkey King is, but Vegeta is even stronger than Monkey King. I want to go over and see if the artificial man is really finished. Tianjin Fan didn't care what Piccolo said, and now he just wanted to fly over to see the situation. Even if you can't participate in the battle, it's good to see other people's fights to enrich your own combat experience. I'll go too, Keelan said hastily. Sun Wuhan clenched his fists and shouted, I'm going too. Isn't it just for fighting that we've been training hard for so long? Piccolo still wanted to dissuade them from going, and the words stuck in his throat, and finally gave up the idea of telling them not to go. Okay. But don't fight against the artificial man, you can't beat him. After all, if it were him, he wouldn't just sit back and wait for the result. He must be hiding in the rock pile. We can't feel the man-made man by air. Once you find it, notify me or Vegeta immediately. Piccolo said, still worried, be more careful. The 4 of them took off and headed towards the rock pile in the next moment. Vegeta stood high on the rock pile. He clenched his fists and looked around angrily, actually hid. Coward, come out. Vegeta frowned and looked at the messy terrain, just destroy this. Vegeta flew high into the sky, stretched out his hand and threw a Qigong wave towards the bottom. Hey, stop, we're here too. Klin raised his head and saw Vegeta high in the sky, and hurriedly stopped him, but he was still a beat behind. HMPH, number 20, who was hiding in the dark, also saw Vegeta's attack. He quickly ran out of the dark and raised his hands high, absorbing Vegeta's chi wave power. Brush. Drink. Oops. Vegeta frowned. This guy really knows how to stitch together. Ha ha ha. Thank you for your energy. Number 20 laughed, and then quickly hopped and disappeared among the rocks as Vegeta charged at him. Swipe. Despair. Vegeta fell to the ground and cursed depressingly. This guy slipped pretty fast. Number 20 hid in the high rock pile above Vegeta, crossed his arms in disdain, and calculated proudly. Vegeta's strength is unexpected. What should he do next? There is no chance to do it at all. It seems that I still have to go back to the Research Institute. If possible. Research Institute, Number 20 thought and said unconsciously, but soon his wandering eyes saw Sun Wuhan looking around not far away. He hurriedly hid his body in the shadows, and walked cautiously, but after a few steps, he found himself looking for his Tianjin rice. And Piccolo floating in the air. Number 20 was secretly happy in his heart. Can't beat Vegeta, can't he kill these little Lolo? Absorbing their abilities should be able to fight Vegeta. Looking at the four people in different places, No 20's eyes kept wandering, as if picking vegetables in the vegetable market. Well, whose energy should I absorb first? If the strength is only comparable to that of Vegeta, it is Piccolo. Piccolo was still looking for the figure of number 20 without seeing anything, and at this time, number 20 had already sneaked up not far behind Piccolo. He quickly stepped forward and put his hand over Piccolo's mouth, and began to absorb his energy. Gohan, come and make a human. Although Piccolo couldn't speak, he had telepathy. Sun Wuhan soon felt a faint breath, and he rescued Piccolo in time, and the rest of them also sensed it very quickly, and rushed to gather under Piccolo. Brush. Piccolo, who had eaten a fairy bean, also recovered. He threw the white cloth wrapped around his head on the ground, and then took off the cloak. He looked at Vegeta, clenched his fist angrily and decided to himself, Vegeta, I'll take care of him, don't interfere. Vegeta was silent for a while, then asked with a sneer, are you looking for death? He will suck your energy again. Almost died just now, still rushing to find death. At that time, he will die. Piccolo feels that these words are not very harmful, but they are very insulting. On the other hand, number 20 secretly prayed that it would be best for Vegeta not to intervene, and to absorb some energy from Piccolo to deal with Vegeta. Just when he fantasized about having a sweet dream, Piccolo kicked No 20's jaw with one knee. Goo. Number 20 was kicked away with a dazed look on his face. When everyone was stunned and Vegeta smiled, number 20 also reacted and launched a counterattack. Piccolo stretched out his hand indifferently and hit him on the back with another elbow. Number 20 was hit and smashed into the rock pile with a dull expression. Impossible. How could I lose to Piccolo? I absorbed so much energy from him just now. Number 20, struggling to get up from the pile of rubble, was somewhat suspicious of life. In addition, above the small town, the future Trunks is suspended in the air, looking at the messy island below with a serious face. Soon he felt the breath not far away, and he rushed there quickly. Number 20, who had been pressed and beaten by Piccolo, was in a panic. He stared at Piccolo and cursed. Pico's strength is so powerful. How did he get it? Krillin looked terrified. He's not a Super Saiyan. But Piccolo's current combat power is comparable to that of Vegeta, who had just become a Super Saiyan on Namek. On the other side, the guard Yajiro, who was holding little Trunks, looked at Bulma, who was flying the plane as if he was constipated, and tried to continue to persuade him. Let's go back. Let them deal with the man-made humans, you still have a child. As soon as the words fell, Grand Trunks quickly passed over their plane. Look, that boy from the future. Bulma yelled excitedly, he's here too, and he's here to join the battle. We're not going in the wrong direction. It's there. Piccolo cut off No 20's wrist with one hand, listen up. We can increase the energy you mentioned at the moment of battle and make it explode. Piccolo sneered, so, you didn't absorb much energy just now. Win. Sun Wuhan clenched his fist and shouted happily. Number 20 was thrown into the rock pile again. He gritted his molars angrily, got up and leaned on the gravel, looked at Piccolo in the midair with hatred. That guy. I didn't expect Piccolo to be so powerful. In the original history, it seems that we were all killed by artificial humans. It seems that the future will also change. Piccolo looked at number 20 below with contempt. It's because you are not as strong as you imagined. Or we are stronger than you expected. Keelan, who was suspended in midair, looked at the crippled number 20, and sighed happily, great, we won without Wukong. Yes, Sun Wuhan also echoed. Although I don't like the strength of Piccolo and Vegeta, at least I can rest assured now, Tianjin Fan also said happily. Hehe. Vegeta didn't say anything superfluous. I don't know if Piccolo will directly kill number 20 next. But it doesn't matter. Hey, Piccolo was about to give number 20 the final blow, when a breath came from a distance, and everyone turned their heads to see that it was Grand Trunks who had arrived. Ah, that guy isn't either. Grand Trunks could no longer describe the scene he saw in words. When seeing Grand Trunks, number 20 was even more surprised, which was beyond the scope of his knowledge. He had the idea of fleeing, and everything was different from what they expected. I can only avoid it first and go back to the research institute. Who is this guy? Grand Trunks looked down at number 20, throwing out doubts, are you guys fighting him? What? Piccolo was surprised. Could it be that these two guys weren't the artificial people Grand Trunks was talking about? Isn't he what you call a man-made man? What's going on? Grand Trunks was also uncertain about the changes in history. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.